Chapter 364. A small boat floated down the river. It was dusk and Jiangling was already in sight. Ning Daoqi stood at the head of the boat and looked back at the sun sinking into the river. The night wind was getting stronger. Ning Daoqi tidied his hair and looked at the lights on the river in the distance. He could not help but smile bitterly. The senior member of the Shen Wu team, Di Guangzong, stood on the big boat that blocked the river. He stood in the middle of the river with his hands behind his back and looked at Ning Daoqi's boat with a cold expression. The rushing river soon brought the boat to him. Ning Daoqi shook his head and sighed when he saw the person on the boat. "Brother Di, it's only been 3 days since I came down from the middle of Sichuan. It's been smooth sailing, but I can't match your speed. I'm so ashamed. Brother Di must have something important to ask of me, since you have blocked the Yangtze River shipping under Yang Guang's eyes. Please tell me." "Brother Ning, I am here to stop you from meeting Yang Guang," Di Guangzong said calmly. "I hope you can give up this trip and return to Sichuan with me." "Ha!" Ning Daoqi laughed. "I cannot agree to this. Brother, are you not going to ask why?" Di Guangzong was not angry. Instead, he asked calmly, "Why did I support you before and suddenly return now? Brother, you do not know the inside story. Why do you reject me?" "The world is bustling for benefits." Ning Daoqi smiled. "This is only for the benefit of Brother Di and the others, nothing else. That's a good thing to say, but our interests are also fellow Taoists' interests, and also the great interests of the world. Regarding this matter, Master Daoxin has entrusted me to pass it to you. Brother, you will know once you read it." Di Guangzong took out Master Daoxin's handwritten letter and sent it with his palms. The wind wrapped around the letter and passed it to Ning Daoqi's hands. Ning Daoqi saw that the genuine qi wrapped around the letter did not dissipate. It was calm and steady, as if someone was holding it solemnly. Ning Daoqi's eyes brightened and he secretly applauded. At the same time, his hands did not stop. He took the letter lightly and opened it. As expected, it was the handwriting of Master Daoxin. Then, he concentrated and read it. Ning Daoqi heaved a deep sigh after he browsed through it. Why did it have to be like this? The white-haired old man shook his head and said, "The wise men of Buddhism are ultimately burdened by their sections. The homeland of Shenzhou and millions of common people are actually incomparable to the gains and losses of a single family?" He laughed as he tossed the letter into the air, allowing the night wind to blow it away. Turning around, he said to Di Guangzong, "Brother Di, please forgive me for not being able to agree with your actions. If I follow you, I'm afraid that China will be overturned and blood will flow. Although Daoqi isn't talented, he doesn't dare to disregard the common people of the world for the sake of one family, one clan. Yang Guang is tyrannical. I can die in front of him, but I would never dare to ally with the Turks and Goryeo to dig up the foundations of the Sui dynasty. In the name of the common people and the orthodoxy, how could I do such an inhumane and disrespectful thing? Yes, I don't like Yang Guang, but if the world were to become evil because of me, the people would be in dire straits. How could I bear to see that happen? I might as well cover my face with my hair and die of old age on a high mountain. I will go with my sword this time, and discuss the Tao with Yang Guang in the atrium. If I succeed, I will avert a calamity for the world. If I fail, I will just die. Do you think that I am relying on my martial strength to be arrogant? So what if Yang Guang oppresses the world? So what if Yang Guang is invincible in the world? What does that have to do with me? My only wish for this trip is to listen to Yang Guang's reasoning with my own ears. For the common people of the world, for the Central Plains, I just want to seek a moment of respite. As for allying with Bai Xian of the Turks and Fu Kalin of Goryeo to kill Yang Guang together with the heroes of the world." Ning Daoqi shook his head and said, "How can you do that?" Di Guangzong was silent. He stared at Ning Daoqi's calm, old face that even had a hint of innocence. He slowly took out a stone arrow from his sleeve, and from his other sleeve, He took out a strange-looking demonic sword. The shape of the demonic sword was formed by many teeth and joints. It looked like a strange clock. When it was held in Di Guangzong's hand, Ning Daoqi suddenly felt that he had lost his real existence. It was as if the person standing in front of him was just an illusion of Di Guangzong, and Di Guangzong's real body had transcended time and was in another world. This sword is called the Constellation Tribulation. It can cut iron like mud, and it can even split gold and stone. However, the most magical thing is the special ability of this sword. It can control the time within 3 feet of the wielder. It was formed by the remains of the heavenly demon of the ancestor, and was formed by the anxiety of the Xian Tian evil emperor. The time is not far from it, and it is far more chaotic than flowing water. Within 3 feet of flowing water, time will not be able to restore it, Di Guangzong sighed. It actually has such a background? Ning Daoqi's eyes shone with a strange brilliance. I am so lucky. I can only sigh that I can't see the peerless elegance of those few powerhouses with my own eyes. Brother Ning, you don't have to feel pity. I have inherited the true teachings of the Xian Tian evil emperor, and I can also show some of his elegance. Di Guangzong gently raised the Constellation Tribulation. His whole body seemed to be strangely divided into a few illusions, and each of them held a demonic weapon in their hands. He sighed softly. With a sword without a knife, it will be difficult to understand the true meaning of the evil emperor's martial arts. However, the martial arts path has always been that you will live after learning it, and you will die after imitating it. This sword is the martial arts path of my Di Guangzong. The Constellation Tribulation demonic sword disappeared in front of Ning Daoqi's eyes, and the blade of the sword, which looked like a overlapping pagoda, streaked across the place where the naked eye couldn't see. The sword that surpassed time and cut off all of Ning Daoqi's escape routes cut through the void. It completely cut off the changes of the Sans Ho 8 pounces, broke through all the illusions, and pierced through all the truth and falsehood, forcing Ning Daoqi to face it head-on. The sword technique that surpassed time could always cut off any possible changes at the moment when Ning Daoqi's qi dynamic changed. With the strongest and most violent sword qi, it tore through all the illusions of time and space. Di Guangzong gave up the strange sword path that the Constellation Tribulation demonic sword was best at. It was to force Ning Daoqi to not be able to use the wonders of the mental martial arts path, and have a competition of strength and vitality. The martial arts that Ning Daoqi was good at should have been the probing, changes, and responses of the 2 top chess players. However, all the changes, all the illusions, all the mysteries of time and space, distance, and timing were forcefully cut off by a sword. It was a face-to-face confrontation. In an instant, it was a dead end. Unable to control the reality, unable to grasp the distance, and losing the advantage of time and space, the Sans Ho 8 pounces were almost completely useless. The divine martial team seemed to be prepared. They sent out Di Guangzong, who had the Constellation Tribulation demonic sword. He was indeed the nemesis of all the martial arts of the Great Tang. Only the reincarnators, who had seen countless martial arts in the chief god's space and could draw on the wisdom of the martial arts of the endless world, could make such a counter. No matter how profound the concept was, or how sharp the spirit was, martial arts was ultimately a contest between the fist and the flesh, and the sword and the body. Chapter 365. The Void. Di Guangzong's Yuan Qi sword seemed to strike the void, bringing with it a turbulent and devastating destructive Yuan Qi that seemed to rush into the endless void. Even though it shook the space, it instantly twisted and turned over, and countless irregular spatial ripples could be seen appearing and dissipating at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, the constellation calamity in his hand seemed to have fallen into a quagmire, and the huge power he controlled became a burden. Ning Daoqi's palms seemed to have opened up a boundless space. No matter how Di Guangzong wreaked havoc, the crisscrossing sword qi was unable to move beyond that distance, as if there was a black hole hidden there. If it wasn't for Brother D's carefree heavens, I might not have been able to see through the wonders of breaking the void. Ning Daoqi smiled. There's a fish in the North Ocean. Brother D, do you know what touched me the most in the carefree heavens was not the ping in the sky, but the fish in the North Ocean, controlling qi with spirit. Di Guangzong sighed. Brother Ning is indeed wise. I didn't expect you to be able to integrate the true meaning of the carefree heavens into your Sans Ho 8 lunges in less than a month, completely making up for the flaws in your martial arts. Using the void to defeat the real, the meaning of the North Ocean is great. Today, I can't win against you. After saying that, he retreated. Ning Daoqi touched the trace of blood on his chin and shook his head with a bitter smile. The stone arrow in Brother D's left hand, what material is it made of? It looks like the void is nothing. If you use it to defeat me, I won't even have a 30% chance of winning. Ning Daoqi felt a strange feeling from his wound, as if a part of him had left his body and entered another space. Keeping his guard up against these mutants, Ning Daoqi continued to go with the flow. On the other side, Di Guangzong reported to the team leader, Ning Daoqi has been pierced by the stone arrow. With his talent, he should be able to awaken a substitute. His martial arts progress is too fast, I can't capture him anymore, so I executed Plan B and let him go to Jiangling. It doesn't matter, we just lost Ning Daoqi. We don't lack plot cannon fodder. Now all the teams are investing resources to cultivate plot powerhouses. A substitute is both a weapon and a shackle. With it, we won't have to worry about these plot characters going out of control. The Shenwu team leader said coldly. Come back first. It's almost time for the Chutang meeting. The most important thing now is to control the leadership of the other teams. On the other side, Lu Karp's expression was extremely ugly. The magic plant's body had already expanded to an extremely large size, a few species that looked extremely dangerous lurked around it, protecting this enormous biological weapon manufacturing factory. Are there any materials with strong radiation? Chen Ong asked him with a smile. Lu Li had no choice but to take out a few high-yield nuclear weapons obediently, because he had already seen that Chen Ong was about to break the crust, in case the lunatic extracted the high-radiation materials in the mantle and turned the magical plants into a heavy nuclear material refinery. Lu Li felt that it was better for her to be more obedient. Next, he was forced to continue throwing in all kinds of genetic samples and technological products. Lu Li only wanted to rejoice that he was not a scientific reincarnator. High-radiation cultivation room, eutrophication cultivation room, parasitic cultivation room, symbiotic cultivation room. It's a pity there's no way to embed a high-efficiency energy source, or else we could build a dark energy cultivation room. Chen Ong sighed. He turned back to look at the pale Lu Li and smiled. You've contributed so many important materials, I can't let you suffer a loss, can I? Now I'll give you some rewards. Option 1, I can give every member of your team a quota of genetic modification and body enhancement. You can choose what gene fragments you want to embed. Hearing the Lord God's reminder in his ear, he looked at the menu in his hand. Perfect enhancement of the T-virus. Alien scientist Primordial Demon, after analyzing the progenitor virus, found a T-virus enhancement that perfectly adapts to the human body. There's a high chance of awakening psychokinesis, physical attributes greatly improved, brain damage less than 70%, will not die. After death, there's a certain chance of mutation. Stairway of the Sun parasites, energy tyrants, alien lickers, demon zombies, and other new biochemical species. Inheriting the identity of a reincarnator can even retain memories. No side effects. For some reason, Lu Li seemed to feel a hint of bewitchment in the Lord God's reminder. It seemed that even the Lord God was curious about the potential of new reincarnators, such as the parasites of the Stairway of the Sun, energy tyrants, alien lickers, and demon zombies in the Lord God's space. Indeed, at the same time, in the Lord God's long list of enhancements, There was such a very conspicuous enhancement at the top of the bloodline biochemical bloodline. Luli almost looked straight ahead as he flipped the page. In his heart, he was almost screaming crazily, "The Lord God must be curious. He's definitely curious. Choosing this kind of enhancement will definitely lead to death." Absolutely. Then, whichever zombie reincarnator joins our team. In the following enhancements, he once again felt the deep malice of the heavenly demon tribe's chief scientist standing in front of him in collusion with the Lord God's space. Perfect blacklight virus enhancement. Luli did not dare to read on and quickly turned the page. Do you think I don't know that enhancing the blacklight virus will lead to death first? The one who survives is the virus aggregation with my memories, emotions, and personality. The perfect beginning is definitely a trap for the Lord God's enhancement. Perfect human aberration enhancement. Perfect greatsword enhancement, can be male or female. Perfect abyss enhancement, cannibalism. Perfect Prometheus enhancement, aberration prototype symbiotic body. Abyss worm enhancement. Luli suddenly shuddered when he flipped to this point. Even perfection is gone? Even the Lord God doesn't dare to fake the side effects of this enhancement? Perfect blood enhancement can perfectly fuse and enhance the bloodline and optimize the perfect enhancement of the host's original bloodline. Another trap. Luli continued to flip to the back. Incomplete true ancestor enhancement, perfect blood tribe. Perfect pillar man enhancement, cosmic life form. Substitute enhancement, substitute. She quickly flipped the enhancement menu in her hand to the end. Instinctively, she felt that behind these seemingly perfect and powerful bloodline modifications, there was almost overflowing malice. Luli stuffed the enhancement menu back into Chen Eng's hand in fear and shook his head like a rattle drum. He's a good person. Our team has no intention of developing in this direction. That's a pity. Chen Ong sighed. I'll ensure that you continue to develop these and conduct follow-up research. Haha. This intention of using us as lab rats. He even said it out loud. Luli sneered in her heart. Chapter 366. Special organs are also divided into 3 routes of strengthening. Chen Ong explained patiently. Your team's power system leans towards martial arts, so I won't recommend any spiritual routes to you. Magic organs. Those things. I don't think you're interested in growing powerful biochemical organs, such as nuclear furnaces or subspace vibrators in your body. Yes. Luli's smile was very forced. His index finger flicked anxiously. No matter how he thought about it, it was hard to understand how these things that sounded powerful and sci-fi could be related to the style of magic organs and spiritual root. As if seeing through his confusion, Chen Ong smiled. Be it cultivation or arcana, some of the more primitive systems have high demands on the environment, or in other words, the laws of the world. Some require natural air, magical elements, and occasionally the mana net to control the violent, primitive magical energies. They are not practical at all for extraterrestrial visitors like you who often transmigrate. Of course, it is not a problem for those who have reached a higher level or a more complete system, such as those who have advanced maintenance skills or planeswalkers, because their research on the world has reached a very profound level, but you don't have such a level yet, do you? Therefore, we can only develop superorgans that are based on biological organs and have a relatively closed system. They can use radiation, magnetic fields, magic power, vitality, and other kinds of energy to ensure that you can cast fireball under magic radiation. In the world of technology without magic power, you can also cast fireball by holding a wire. Then, are there worlds without those biochemical organs that can't work? Luli asked curiously. Yes. Chen Ong replied with a smile. For example, this gas radiation furnace has many world laws that conflict with it. In those worlds, I guarantee that it will make you suffer no pain after a bang. But the biochemical organs are based on the same principle as the other organs in your body. In worlds where it can't work, the primitive, crude organs in your body that are randomly pieced together by nature, such as lungs, won't work either. You're dead for sure in those worlds. Chunong added, I can guarantee that in worlds where the gas radiation furnace is unable to adapt, lungs are useless. However, in worlds where lungs are unable to adapt, such as planet Avatar, Inghua, Taibai, or even the surface of the Sun, as well as similar gasless, highly radioactive environments, the furnace can still help you survive. For the worlds in the universe, your body's adaptability is a joke. The Earth-like environment that you can adapt to is like a grain of sand in the Ganges River. I advise you to choose organ replacement or cyberization, and then have the Lord God send us on missions to various alien worlds. Luli thought with a sneer. He could figure out with his toes that the next world that the Lord God would send them to would not be on Earth after strengthening this very adaptable organ. Then what Master has prepared for us should be the biochemical organs that can adapt to martial arts? Luli asked. Yes, there are many different directions on the road of martial arts. Although the genetic samples I've obtained are relatively few, it's enough to form 3 different complete systems. The first is the acupoint strengthening that can adapt to body refinement and vitality martial art. The inspiration comes from a martial arts world I've been to. The people there are proficient in physical training, and they can awaken their body and spirit into the main acupoint, making their physical bodies ever-changing. Luli's eyes lit up when he heard this. He carefully probed, then why not directly give us the martial arts manuals of that world? Chenong glanced at him. The look that seemed to see through all his distracting thoughts made Lu Li's heart tremble. Fortunately, Chenong didn't seem to have the intention to expose his thoughts. Instead, he seriously replied, that world is the legendary immortal world. The vitality between heaven and earth is extremely thick. The natives there have countless mysteries hidden in their bodies, and their souls are innately powerful. How can a trash like you, who evolved from an ape, compare to them? People revert to their ancestry to become divine beasts, but you revert to your ancestry to become a monkey? People breathe in energy, but what do you breathe in? Pollution? Chen Eng's mockery made Lu Li's ears turn red. People in the immortal world rely on vitality and the endless potential of their bodies. Earthlings like you should just rely on technology and mutation. Chenong comforted him. I've developed the acupoint energy organs. In terms of potential, it's no less than the martial arts of that world. Through continuous transplants of energy organs, I've finally cultivated the ultimate combat body. It's strong and powerful. It's strong and powerful. Look at this Azathos combat body, this chaotic 4 apes combat body. By cultivating one organ after another, it finally accumulates into a unique life form. It's also a grand path. Chenong praised. I feel that these combat bodies seem to be very dangerous. Luli wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and said, can they surpass the human immortal martial arts just through strengthening? I don't think it's reliable. Of course, it's not just through strengthening. Chen-Ong casually mentioned, because of the rejection of the organs, I can only help you transplant the original body. You need to develop and awaken it yourself. Lu Li instantly became alert. How do I awaken it? For example, this 9-yang combat body needs the most energy organ, the head of the Sun Eater. It's made up of the energy organs in the head orifices like the Sun God's Sun, the Supreme God's Court, and the Tun Ri Qingming. Basically, it needs to grow in the environment of a star. For example, the Tun Ri Qingming needs to be on the surface of a supernova star. It needs to use the special technique multidimensional republic I exercise to grow smoothly and finally awaken it by devouring the energy of a gamma storm. Let me tell you, after the 9-yang combat body devours 9 stars that are no less than the mass of the Sun, you'll be able to kill anyone who stands in your way. You'll definitely not be inferior to any human immortal or nine tribulation ghost immortal, and you'll be able to adapt to any world in the universe. I can guarantee that once you've cultivated the nine-yang combat body, as long as there's a sun in the universe, you'll be able to possess great power, and you won't lose your power because of the difference in the laws of the world, Chen Ong promised. Is there some condition that you haven't mentioned? And this nine-yang combat body, the condition to cultivate it is too harsh. Lu Li tried his best to suppress the fear in his heart. He roared in his heart, "Damn the Tun Ri Qin Ming, damn the eye exercise. Chief God, you've definitely messed things up. Can you control this guy?" "No, you can't control it anymore, right? There's a small condition. Every time you go to a world with different laws, you'll have to devour a sun in that world. Only then will you be able to assimilate the unique energy laws of that world. Let me give you a small suggestion, it's best not to choose those worlds with only one sun, there'll be trouble. Of course there'll be trouble, they'll fight me to the death." Lu Li screamed in his heart. Chapter 367. Let's think about it. Aren't there two more? Let me introduce them first, Master. Lu Li changed the topic with difficulty. He was afraid that Chen Ong would give him the Azathos battle form or something. He finally remembered the origin of the Azathos battle form. The second modification is simpler, but it's practical and reliable. It's called the Taizu's Long Fist in biochemical enhancement. It's easy to operate. If it's enhanced to an orangutan, it can unleash its power. Can we not talk about orangutans? Okay. Chen Ong readily accepted the advice. Even a paramecium can use it skillfully. Of course, if it's a real paramecium, the technological content may be higher. It needs the biochemical parent to grow again to create this organelle armor. Let's not talk about that. In cultivation, this enhancement is called immortal bone. In martial arts, it can also be called martial bone. Of course, it's not just bones. Any part of the human body will work. Like this. The magical plant extended a tentacle and showed a transparent tentacle that looked like a small petri dish to Lu Li. An eyeball with vertical pupils stared at him. The look gave Lu Li goosebumps. He noticed that a few nerve lines extended from the back of the eyeball and connected to the magical plant parent. The martial bone, dragon pupil, has thermal vision, high-sensitivity vision, dynamic vision, and quantum sensory system. It can be said to be the perfect biological vision organ. After the modification, your reaction speed will no longer be limited to the nervous system. It will be highly compatible with true energy. All the functions of the eyes can be evolved. It may not be as powerful as acupoint omniscience in the beginning. It may only allow you to see a little more clearly. However, as it continues to merge with your true energy and evolve, and as your martial arts continues to grow, your future will be limitless. It won't be like acupoint omniscience that limits your path. No matter which path you choose, it will perfectly merge with you. You've finally revealed yourself. So acupoint omniscience will replace the host. Lu Li's attention was focused on something strange. Chen Ong showed a smile that made Lu Li's hair stand. He whispered in Lu Li's ear, "Replacing the host's path is better than enhancing an idiot like you who does everything for others." Puppet. Lu Li felt the deepest chill in his heart. It turned out that his so-called vigilance was actually so laughable in Chen Ang's eyes. Well, a puppet controlled by the main god, jumping up and down in fear of being controlled was indeed a joke. The martial bone optic nerves can completely change the route of nerve signal transmission. After the modulation, your nerve reaction speed will be increased by at least 5 times, until your brain reaches its limit. In the petri dish of the magical plant was a tiny network of veins that looked like crystals. Lu Li finally came to her senses and threw away her ridiculous vigilance. Without the ability to resist, what was the difference between a powerhouse like Chen Ong and a main god? It would be better to sell the goods to two parties. At the very least, when the main gods were manipulating them, they would have a backer, and this backer seemed to be quite powerful. Martial bone origin magnetic hand bone. Implanting a magnetic organ in your hand bone will allow you to sense and control magnetic fields at will. However, after the transplant, your true chi will gradually become magnetic. It's best to change to a magnetic attribute true chi. The advantage is that it can be combined with the true chi attribute very quickly. Chernong looked at the crystal floating in the petri dish of the magical plant and suddenly added, "Right, the modulation method is to first remove your hand bone and then cultivate it. Finally, the third modulation." Chernong waved his hand to make the magical plant retract its tentacles, turned around and said to Luli, "To be honest, I don't recommend you choose the third one, because the genetic data obtained this time is biased towards biochemical, and there is not enough data for the third enhancement. If you want to perfect this enhancement, you should at least dissect a god." So, in essence, the third enhancement lacks data for basic development. Chernong asked him with his arms crossed, "Do you still want to choose? Why don't you listen?" Lu Li said seriously. The third enhancement is actually a high-end application of biochemical technology. It focuses on the quantum effect of humans, or in layman's terms, it's the soul. It's closer to the soul, the part that's closely connected to the spirit, so I named it martial spirit. Chen Ong tapped the magical plant's tentacles lightly, and two distorted shadows appeared in front of Lu Li. These two specimens, one has a special ability called substitution, and the other is a soul called spirit body. They're both specimens collected last time. Among them, substitution belongs to the side of the soul that's biased towards the quantum effect of the body, which is the side that's biased towards the soul. I call it martial spirit. Spirit body, on the other hand, completely belongs to the soul, and contains the most complicated application of the soul. It belongs to the side of the soul, and based on its research, I call it martial spirit. There's no difference between martial spirit and martial spirit. It's just that one belongs to the consciousness of cells, and the other belongs to the consciousness of the soul. One is the hub of the spine, and the other is completely connected to the brain. But let me tell you the truth, martial spirit is closer to the origin, and it's more dangerous. Humans have 3 souls and 7 spirits, so martial spirit and martial spirit are also divided into 3 paths and 7 laws. If the previous biochemical enhancement is like transplanting organs and transforming the human body, then this biochemical enhancement is like transplanting soul organs and transforming your soul. If the other methods fail, I can repair them for you, but if martial spirit and martial spirit fail, your soul will scatter, and you will never be able to live again. Chen Ong emphasized in the most solemn manner. The ability that originates from the 3 souls and 7 spirits is mysterious and unpredictable. Because of the lack of samples, I'm also not clear about the path after basic enhancement. Moreover, the application of the ability that you can obtain completely depends on your own development. Quantum effect involves space-time, energy, law, soul, and even higher dimensions. You might not even know the principles behind the abilities that you've obtained. For example, the sparrow-een martial spirit can understand ghosts and control other life forms that have a soul structure, whether they're alive or dead. In other words, it can control the souls of corpses, and it can also control the souls of the dead. The former is called corpse control, and the latter is called exorcism. Another example is the Dharma Treasury martial spirit, which can peek into the future for 3 seconds. The Dharma Realm martial spirit, which can stop time for 3 seconds, the Embryonic Light martial spirit, which can reincarnate and possess a body, and the True Spirit is not concealed, the Heavenly Rush martial spirit, which can communicate with heaven and earth, and be enlightened by the gods, the Heaven and Earth martial spirit, which can be born from nature and open the door of Xian Pin, the Goddess of Grains martial spirit, which can increase one's comprehension to an exaggerated level, and the soul is close to the great Tao. Lu Li's eyes were dazzling, and she was truly shocked by these terrifying enhancements. Whether it was the embryonic light that could escape the control of the Lord God and regain freedom, or the Dharma realm martial spirit that could almost go against the natural order and control time, they were all terrifying enhancements that even the Lord God could not provide. For the first time, Lu Li was completely moved. Chapter 368. Acupoint Connection, Martial Bone, Martial Soul, Martial Spirit. Lu Li's heart was in a fierce struggle. He clearly knew that there must be poison hidden behind these pies that fell from the sky, but he couldn't harden his heart to refuse them. Because in the God space, he didn't have the right to be reserved. He didn't even know if he could return alive from the next mission, so he wasn't qualified to consider things like long-term consequences. Most of the reincarnators didn't have such a luxury as a future. What they could do was to live, and to do everything they could to survive, even if it meant drinking poison to quench thirst. I choose martial soul strengthening. Lu Li took a deep breath, closed his eyes and said, "As for my teammates, let them decide for themselves." Interesting. Chen-Ong replied with a smile. "Do you want a customized set? As the first experimental subject, you can have a discount for all 3 types of strengthening. I'm also very curious about what realm a person who transplanted the martial bone, acupoint connection, and refined his soul into a martial soul carrier can reach in the end." "Then come on," Lu Li said with a smile. "Since we're going to suffer anyway, it's better to choose the most dangerous and most promising path. Let me see your bone structure and potential." Chen-Ong pushed Lu Li into the magical plant. Lu Li had to endure the magical plant's sticky tentacles sliding on his body, and then an even more sticky mouth swallowed him. A light green transparent liquid like mucus soaked him. Lu Li just wanted to hold his breath, but he felt a cool air seeping into his pores, so he didn't have to breathe at all. Chen-Ang's voice clearly reached his ears. "Don't worry, the V11 nutrient solution has its own dissolved oxygen, and its active substances can maintain your body condition to the best. Now you have to wait for 2 hours for the nutrient solution to completely take over your body's circulatory system. Your muscles and bones are in good condition, and there are no signs of wear at all, just like a newborn. Let me see, according to your body condition, this body was completely created 3 months ago." Chen-Ang's words shocked Lu Li. 3 months ago was exactly the time when they descended from the God space. I didn't expect that when the sovereigns repaired their bodies, they would also repair the damage to their bodies. Lu Li smiled bitterly in his heart. This was the first time he knew that after so many years in God space, he actually needed a storyline character outside of God space to remind him of this. No. The last time it was repaired was 5 months ago. We rested in the space for 2 months before we carried out the task. Everyone only recovered when they returned to the space. How could it be 3 months ago? Lu Li was shocked. He raised his head abruptly in the nutrient fluid and looked at the blurry figure projected by Chen-Ong through the green nutrient fluid outside the transparent plant substance. He could not see the details, but he could see that Chen-Ong was working in front of the magical plant like a researcher. "Is it strange?" Chen-Ang's voice reached his ears. "I'm not surprised at all. It seems that the technology behind the thing behind you is very old. Quantum information transmission is a very poor technology in terms of stability and safety, but it's good in terms of confidentiality. People like me can't decipher the possible spatial coordinates in your body. Going back in time won't work, and peeking at the lines of fate won't work either, because you are a completely new person without a past. If I tried to peek at your river of fate, I would find that your fate is actually only 3 months. You are a new person with the memories of Lu Li, born in this world and receiving the memories of outer space. How is that possible?" Lu Li could not accept Chen-Ang's words. He punched the transparent plant substance in front of him and asked in shock, "How could this happen?" "Why not?" Chen-Ong spread his hands and said, The most dangerous thing in this world is civilization. I think even the mastermind behind you is afraid of the unpredictability of civilization's progress. Who knows if a primitive civilization that was weak and backward a moment ago will use a small team to beat you to the ground in 100 years, or even a few decades later? Who knows if a civilization that was a harmless little sheep a second ago will turn into a republic the next second? It's a watchful civilization. With such a super evolution, you can use one hand to toy with the mastermind behind you? For the mastermind, safety is the most important thing. Hide the coordinates of the core space and erase the traces left in the river of fate. The less interference, the better. Sending a person to a foreign world and leaving behind traces is much more dangerous than sending a modified and encrypted memory to a foreign world. But what about the enhancements on my body? What if I have to create a new body every time I transmigrate? The cost of a prime god. Luli struggled to explain. Do you think creating your body can be considered a cost? Chen Ong sneered. Don't joke around. For a body like yours, the cost of my laboratory to create is no more than 10 million strings of coins, and this is the price of the Tang dynasty. If it is industrialized, I am confident that it can be reduced to 10,000 strings of coins. In my world, it's probably not much different from the cost of making a pig. I don't know how advanced the technology of the mastermind behind you is, but with the strength it has revealed so far, the value of an ant like you is just a drizzle. It can't be considered a cost at all. Compared to that laughable cost, it should care more about safety, Chen Ong explained. Then what about the Luli from before? The Luli from before she was teleported? Luli asked excitedly. It should have been recycled already, Chen Ong thought. After copying the quantum information spiral, it is natural to eliminate the old information to prevent the program from becoming chaotic. The specific process should be using the mirror copy method. Do you know how DNA is copied? The principle is pretty much the same. Take your quantum information from the past, and imprint a mold with the exact opposite corresponding information carrier, which is the anti-quantum information. Then transfer the mold to this world, and repeat the process, and a brand new soul will appear. Then erase the old you and transfer the authority in the system to the new you. The whole process is simple and reliable. It is so ancient that primitive people made bronze, and then the ancient people invented printing. This method of copying yin and yang engraving has a long history. I didn't expect that even the prime god behind you is using it. Before Chen Ong could finish his words, Luli was about to break down. He controlled the nutrient solution to form a small person that looked like him. Then, he imprinted it into a ball of nutrient solution, leaving a human-shaped depression. Finally, he released the control over the small person and used the depression to imprint. Sure enough, a small person that looked exactly the same as before appeared in the depression. He looked at the small person that looked exactly like him, and suddenly, he completely broke down. This is the truth? So, I is already dead. What is left now is just my shadow, or a shadow that has been copied who knows how many times. Luli curled up in the nutrient solution, and his personality was on the verge of breaking down. Then, who am I now? Luli's mind was blank. Chapter 369. Luli seemed to be erased bit by bit from space, slowly disappearing into the nutrient solution. The windchasers in the distance also heard the same news in shock. Reincarnator Luli has violated the taboo of Lord God's space, and is being erased. The windchasers' team battle score is -1. Luo Xian screamed, Captain! Zhang Xiaofeng was even more confused. How could this be? At this time seemed to stop. Chen Ong pulled out his hand and turned back time 40 seconds ago, branded Lu Li's quantum information, and then returned to this world. At the moment when time stopped, Chen Ong linked the quantum information in the void and pressed Lu Li's mold into the quantum tide of the void. countless entangled quantum states suddenly separated. In the next moment, when time returned to normal, Lu Li's soul appeared in the magical plant nutrient solution, and a body identical to his previous body quickly formed in the nutrient solution. 3 seconds later, Lu Li opened his eyes and panted. In the next moment, his quantum information was erased by Lord God again, and his body collapsed with his eyes wide open. Chen Ong snorted coldly and repeated the previous replication, creating Lu Li again. Lord God continued to erase. Luo Xian stared dumbfoundedly at the messages in his mind. Reincarnator Lu Li has violated the taboo of Lord God's space. Reincarnator Lu Li has violated the taboo of Lord God's space. Reincarnator Lu Li has violated the taboo of Lord God's space. Such a dozen repetitions made the Windchasers forget their sadness. Zhang Xiaofeng's mouth was wide open. Is Lord God crazy? Or is he infected with a virus? Do we have such a captain that he can erase? In fact, we do. Chen Ong duplicated more than 100 Lu Li in one breath and let the magical plants create bodies for them. He stood at the side and sneered. Come on. Erase. If I can't catch you once, let's see if I can catch your tail more than 100 times. Have you asked for my opinion before erasing in front of me? For the first time, the Prime God's obliteration hesitated. A hint buried in Lu Li's soul suddenly erupted, erasing most of the duplicates, leaving only one Lu Li and erasing his memory of the past 3 minutes, erasing all the words that Chen Ong had said to him. Chen Ong and the Lord's rules exchanged hundreds of terabytes of information, which was equivalent to 200 years' worth of information on the Earth's internet, before they finally reached a compromise. Chen Ong had no choice but to cut off the Windchasers' memories of this period, completely forgetting the Lord's mistake. Lu Li opened his eyes. He felt that something was wrong, but he could not detect it at all. He thought that it was the discomfort of being in the body of the demonic plant. He smiled and forgot the moment when he was the closest to death and the truth since he entered the main God's space. Some parts of your genes are very interesting. They belong to a biological gene fragment with a very strong infectious ability. Most of them are in a hidden state, and only a small part has strengthened your body's ability to sense true energy. According to my analysis, this is an infectious gene that has been modified by a plant's genetic modification method. Holy sh*T. Lu Li was completely shocked. He forgot the doubts he had for a moment and was only terrified by Chen Eng's terrifying scientific insight. Didn't I just eat a few blood Bodhi? And I just entered the main God space when the old Windchasers were still alive? Even that was detected. Using this gene as a sample, I've modified your energy-carrying organ and martial bones. Chen Ong suspended a few seeds that looked like blood vessels in the nutrient solution in front of Lu Li. According to the special gene fragment in your body, the acupoint energy organ has been modified. The main body is located in the spine, and the combat body that will be formed is the Qilin combat body. The most important organ is the Qilin bone, which is also the blood Qilin spine. It is made up of the 5 elements Qilin acupoint, the gold Qilin lung shu acupoint, the fire Qilin heart shu acupoint, the water Qilin kidney shu acupoint, and the other 5 elements Qilin. Finally, they form the energy organ blood Qilin that can replace all the blood in your body. I will now plant the energy organ in your acupoints, the 5 elements Kirin. Considering your condition, it is very easy to promote the growth of the 5 elements Kirin. You just need to stimulate it with the true energy of the 5 element. When the 5 energies in your chest are completed, the 5 elements Kirin acupoints will be completed. But if you want the 5 elements Kirin acupoints to form a blood Kirin and modify your spine, you must complete the special genes in your body. Is there a way? Just devour the source of the genes in your body. By the way, let me warn you, the special genes are very violent and cruel. If you don't want to be swallowed by the cell consciousness of the genes, you must have a strong will. In your words, it is to break through the God's gate of mind. Chen Ong smiled ferociously. He looked at Lu Li and said, otherwise, when you are modified by the blood Kirin, your body will break through the body gate and Qi gate and swallow your soul. At that time, you will become a Kirin demon. You will be invincible, and you will raise a storm of blood in any world. You will do evil. In order to help you, Chen Ong said with a smile, I have changed your martial bones into Heaven's Eye. A vertical eye with a golden pupil appeared in front of Lu Li. Looking at the cold and emotionless golden iris in the eye, Lu Li shivered. Heaven's Eye is not an eye, but a mutated organ of the pineal gland. It will replace your pineal gland and modify your brain. The biggest function of Heaven's Eye is to eliminate your emotions and provide you with a hidden personality that is 1,000 times more intelligent and decisive than your current personality. It should be able to control the violent blood of the Kirin. Of course, because martial bones are naturally infectious and do not have strong autonomy, Heaven's Eye will always cooperate with your martial arts. It is an auxiliary organ of your body. If the blood Kirin modifies you into a Kirin demon battle body, Heaven's Eye will also be infected, and you will die. Of course, at that time, the Kirin demon battle body will be even stronger. An absolutely rational, absolutely intelligent demon Kirin with dark, negative blood might be a good thing. You will be so strong that the world will be shocked. But I will be dead by then. The powerful one is the Kirin demon. Lu Li wanted to stop him. For me, there is no difference. Chen Ong said with his hands spread out. Isn't it a good thing that the experimental body is stronger? I don't believe you. You originally wanted to modify me into a Kirin demon. You modified my Heaven's Eye just to make the Kirin demon stronger. Let me out. I don't agree to such a modification. Lu Li hit the inner wall of the demonic plant in a panic. Such a dangerous modification, I would be crazy to agree to it. Then, he grabbed his hair and said in fear, wait, why did I agree to participate in the modification? Why can't I remember? To get rid of the control of the Lord God. Chen Ong explained to him in his mind, but unfortunately, this consciousness has been eliminated by the Lord God, so you can't remember why you agreed to the modification. Lu Li, who realized that he had unconsciously become a lab rat, tried to resist, but it was all in vain. 5 seeds intertwined with blood veins drilled into Lu Li's back. He screamed in pain as he felt his spine being struck by an electric current. Chapter 370. Qilin Demon. These 3 words made Lu Li tremble. This was a ruthless thing that even a hero like Nie Fong had suffered a setback. However, he didn't even have the chance to express his objection before he was transformed by Chen Ong. While enduring the pain in his spine that felt like it was being roasted by a soldering iron, he also clearly felt his skin being cut open and the demon plant's tentacles separating his back to protect his spine muscles. Lu Li felt like he was going crazy. His nerves were becoming more and more sensitive under the stimulation of the demon plant's radiation. Even his internal organs were pulled out of his body through a Y-shaped cut on his chest. Your alveoli are developing very well, Chen Ong commented. Because of the efficiency of breathing, most of the alveoli in a normal person are in a state of atrophy. However, your alveoli are not only fully developed, but they are also developing into a state of mutation. He filled Lu Li's alveoli with a large amount of nutrient solution. Lu Li opened his eyes and saw that his lungs had expanded to the size of a person. He was almost scared out of his wit. Not many people in this world could see their internal organs floating in front of them, connected by blood vessels to carry out extracorporeal circulation. However, Lu Li was lucky enough to be the first person in the Tang Empire. However, he didn't seem to be happy about it. Although the process of training your lungs must be very hard, unfortunately, an organ with low efficiency like the lungs has no value. Logically speaking, I should remove it to save space for your body to be modified. However, considering your mental capacity, I'll reluctantly keep it. When the Qilin demonic blood circulates, it will infect 5 important organs: the heart, which is the engine of the blood; the kidney, which is the purifying machine; the liver, which is the detoxifying machine; the lungs, which is the oxygen generator; and the spleen, which is the energy charging machine. These are the main functions of the 5 internal organs in your body's biological circulation system. They are also the main places where the Qilin demon blood deeply interacts with the body's organs. But congratulations, from today on, you won't have to use these messy functions anymore. The Qilin demon blood is very powerful. It contains energy, mind, matter, and information. It is a complete system of life. Congratulations, the rest of your body is just a shell that carries the Qilin demon blood. As long as you have the blood Qilin spine, it doesn't matter if you lose it. Even if your brain is smashed, even if all the bones in your body are shattered, as long as you still have blood, you can fight to the end. The demonic will in your blood can exert a strong and firm will to fight. You can control your body and fight until the end of time. You can kill your enemies. I was already dead at that time. It's the Qilin demon that's going to continue fighting, right? Lu Li's eyes were wide open. Her angry eyes seemed to want to send the roar in her heart to Chenong. You are obviously using me as a carrier for the Qilin demon, and a cheap one at that. Don't worry. Looking at Lu Li's angry eyes, Chenong smiled and said, the Qilin demonic blood replicates your genes, body condition, quantum information, and all other data. As long as it devours the energy, it can recreate your body. Even your memories won't disappear. You'll just lose the memories of the period when you didn't have a brain. My body? You added the words my body, after hesitating for half a second, didn't you? What you want to say is that the Qilin demon blood will create me, right? It is simply another life parasitizing in my body, right? Without lungs, Lu Li couldn't make a sound even if she wanted to shout. She could only stare at Chenong. However, Chenong didn't take his gaze seriously at all. Instead, he happily praised, there's no need for oxygen, no need for brains, no need for nutrition, and no need for purification. The Qilin demonic blood is a part of a perfect life. When he said this, he paused subtly again. Even if it is a failed product, it is still a wonderful existence. In the future, if you fail and become a Qilin demon, you will also have a very strong fighting power. You can use the demon blood to demonize and infect the whole biosphere, even non-living things. As long as there is a living thing with blood, it will be infected by the demon blood very quickly and become a part of you. The demon blood looks like blood on the surface, but it is actually a kind of demonic creature that coexists with you. It only has a confused collective consciousness of the cells. With a host like you providing a more complete intelligence, you will be able to combine into one. Lu Li watched as his lungs were covered by a kind of silver-white liquid and transformed into a string of crystal-like bubbles. His heart was wrapped by bright, flame-like blood. His liver oozed out green mucus and directly turned into a half-plant and half-organ. His kidneys were like 2 deep black holes. His eyes were dizzy. He couldn't believe that this was his own body. Because the Qilin demon blood needs to be supplemented with genes and stimulated by a large amount of energy, it is still in its original state of the 5 elements Qilin blood. It is attached to these modified organs and exerts its effect. The fire Qilin blood in the ventricle can give your true energy explosive power like burning. The gold Qilin blood in the lungs can make your true energy interfere with matter to a very strong level. In layman's terms, the heart fire blood can make you burst out and instantly increase your fighting power by more than 10 times. The gold lung blood can make your true energy condense and greatly increase your destructive power. The water blood in the kidney of the water Qilin blood can store true energy hundreds of times more than the dantian. The wood blood in the liver has a strong recovery ability. The earth blood in the spleen can dissolve foreign energy and absorb other energy. It has the characteristics of life and true energy. The 5 elements Qilin blood is attached to the 5 internal organs to exert its function. However, the organs that produce the 5 elements Qilin blood are not the 5 internal organs, but the spine. In the Qilin Wushu acupoint of the spine, there are primitive energy organs, and the 5 elements Qilin blood is produced by them. In other words, as long as the spine is intact, even if the 5 internal organs are shattered, they can still be reborn. Lu Li watched as these strange organs of sky blue, gold red, brown yellow, silver white, and dark black were put into his chest and abdomen. The Y-shaped incision quickly healed under the stimulation of the wood Qilin blood. He didn't know what expression to make, but he could only pretend to be broken. However, as if he didn't see it, Chen Ong took off his right eyeball, hooked out the brain's pineal gland, and continued to modify it. The whole scene was like a Frankenstein dissecting a victim, or a forensic doctor performing an autopsy. However, if the magical plants were also put in the camera, it would have a strange feeling like a horror movie. At the end of the great success, Lu Li's face was only left with a dull look, and the light of life in his eyes seemed to be fading little by little. Too weak. Chen Ong shook his head and said, "This reincarnator of the Master God Space is no good. Just a little stimulation, and he can't stand it. Really, he doesn't have the bearing of those reincarnators who are hovering between life and death." Updating Lu Li's quantum information, Chen Ong waited for Lu Li's consciousness to recover while admiring his experimental records. Experimental Subject Number 1 Human Body Modification Record. Chen Ong summarized the failures in the experiment and at the same time constantly improved the experimental methods, including: the test subject's mental endurance has collapsed, and the nerve-sensitive surgery can be modified to be carried out at the end. Cancel the mental sharpening of the mental illusion during the experiment, and no longer increase or interfere with the test subject's mental sensing ability. To be continued. Chapter 371. Lu Li opened his eyes and struggled to get up. He was so nervous that he even forgot to breathe. His spine was arched and his muscles were tight, as if he could draw his sword at any time. However, when he looked at the figure with his back facing him, there was only unforgettable fear in his eyes. He didn't dare to attack. If someone could see the state of his muscles under his skin, they would realize that all his preparations were to escape at the first moment. He would bounce up like a spring, fly 4 to 5 kilometers away, and then escape through the river. However, Chen Ong only said one sentence with his back facing him: "Sit down." Then he sat down obediently, even losing the courage to escape. The strengthening of acupoints and martial bones has been completed. You should be able to learn to use them easily, but there is a problem with the strengthening of the martial soul. It needs some stimulation to germinate from the form of a seed. You need to adapt to your current body, and at the same time promote the germination of the martial soul seed. About 10 kilometers upstream from this river, there is an old Taoist who came to discuss Tao with me. Go shave his beard and invite him over. Lu Li nodded vigorously and didn't dare to have any objections. Chen Ong sighed in his heart, "Am I so scary? I didn't give him any discount on what I promised him. The same kind of enhancement would require him to risk his life dozens of times in order to barely obtain it. Moreover, it would be a weakened version of the enhancement with serious backdoors. I didn't give him any discount at all. It was a complete enhancement without any backdoors. Instead, he was unable to accept it? Could it really be like that? Humans are all cheap wretches and they don't like the pie that falls from the sky? I want to play with him until he wants to die, torment him until he wants to die, trample on him, ravage him, and finally give him the same thing. Only then will he be grateful?" He pointed at the river, and the river water immediately condensed into an ice boat, floating on the water. Chen Ong said, "Go!" Lu Li carefully stepped onto the ice boat. She activated her Jinqi slightly, and the boat shot upstream like an arrow that had just left the bow. It broke through the waves of the river, leaving behind a silvery white waterline as it disappeared into the mist above the river. Chen Ong stood on the tentacle of the demonic plant, looking at the rising moon in the sky. His figure seemed real and illusory, as if he had disappeared in this time and space. Ning Daoqi had already arrived at Jiangdu. The night was gradually enveloping the Yangtze River. He was less than 30 miles away from Linjiang Palace where Yang Guang was. The old Taoist sat on the bow of the boat. The willows on both sides of the river passed by the boat. These were all planted by Yang Guang, and now they were like a curtain. Ning Daoqi sighed. Yang Guang's opening of the canal caused excessive servitude, and caused the people in Jiangnan and Jiangbei to be destroyed, but he was also a great talent. It was a great achievement to communicate between the north and the south. But why did he let people plant countless willows on both sides? For your own selfishness, just for the sake of enjoying the willow trees on both sides of the boat. How many people have been buried on both sides? Is there no reason for the common people to hate his tyranny? Yang was to be the water, and water. A long laugh made Ning Daoqi raise his head. He vaguely saw someone on a white boat on the other side of the river. The sound came from that direction. Fellow Taoist, what do you mean? Ning Daoqi saw that the person was wearing a Taoist robe and was standing on an ice ship. I said the reason why willows are planted on both sides of the river is to prevent soil erosion. The person smiled and said, the canal's embankment is eroded by the river water. If we don't plant willows in less than 10 years, the river will probably be silted up, and the soil and water on both sides will not be able to be preserved. Yang Guang didn't plant willows for the sake of the scenery on both sides, but to protect the river. Ning Daoqi was not embarrassed at all. Instead, he reflected on himself honestly, is that so? This old Taoist is also echoing the views of others. His eyes were so clear that he didn't look like an old man at all. Looking at Lu Li Xian's unwilling expression, he smiled and said, fellow cultivator, you didn't come here just to see this old man, right? That's right. Lu Li smiled bitterly. An evil person forced me to come here to see your Sans Ho 8 pounces. He took out his hands from his sleeves, looked at his perfect hands that didn't have any calluses, sighed, and slowly pressed them into the air. The true qi that was condensed to the extreme was almost tangible. Lu Li could clearly feel that he was different from before. In his body, there seemed to be endless energy that supported the continuous rise of his true qi. The divine art of uniformity that he cultivated was like the first time he condensed true qi. His inner energy was like a part of his body, containing his will and belief. Using his will to gather his will, using his will to control his qi, using his qi to train his spirit. For the first time, his qi, and his spirit were so highly unified. It drove his aura to continuously rise like the clouds in the sky, and it made people's hearts cold. Ning Daoqi was shocked by this endless rising will and true qi, but he heard Lu Li Xian say, until today, I finally know what is true uniformity. In an instant, Lu Li made his move, and it was earth-shattering. One thought, one moment of God. 10 miles, one thunder. The divine art of uniformity that came from the Wenruyan world drew a dazzling and shocking attack in front of Ning Daoqi. The abundant true qi was mixed with the roar of the 5 qilins. Sharp, heavy, blazing, insidious, and long. The 5 special true qi characteristics were mixed as one. It was hard and soft at the same time, and it went straight for Ning Daoqi's chest. I feel that this attack of mine has made me a deity. Lu Li's mind seemed to be divided into 2. One was absolutely rational, and it had endless martial arts wisdom. It controlled his body and true qi with a high degree of coordination, and it made such a brilliant attack. The other Lu Li complained in his mind. Time seemed to not exist for Lu Li's 2 minds. Lu Li, who was watching from the side, watched his body step on the water, and walked toward Ning Daoqi step by step. The overflowing true qi froze the river's surface. The distance between the two of them was a few hundred meters, but Lu Li's body seemed to not feel the distance at all, and he slid across the water surface in an instant. The true qi affected the function of the whole body, and it attracted the energy of the whole heaven and earth. When this attack was made, it was as if the world where Ning Daoqi was at had turned upside down. So this is the state of uniformity, knowing what is impossible. Feeling the attack that he had condensed all of his essence, qi, and spirit, Lu Li sighed. After the transformation, the highest state of the divine art that was originally unattainable had actually succeeded just like that. Facing Lu Li's all-out attack that touched the divine level, Ning Daoqi seemed to have fallen into a dead end. Chapter 372. All of this happened in the blink of an eye, but Lu Li suddenly realized that he had lost track of Ning Daoqi. Even though his spirit had completely locked onto Ning Daoqi's location, even though the entire world was on his side and was turning against Ning Daoqi. However, the old man standing in front of him had mysteriously disappeared just like that. However, Lu Li, who quickly came back to his senses, reacted immediately. He protected his vital parts and turned around to see Ning Daoqi standing on the ice ship that he came from, looking at him. What's going on? Lu Li's heart was in turmoil. Is this the power to stop time? Looking at the shadow behind Ning Daoqi that was exactly the same as him, he linked it to the relevant information of the universe team. The specimen called the substitute, that Chen Ong mentioned, could face the strongest attack of all time and remain unscathed, to the point where Lu Li couldn't even notice it. It seemed like there was only one answer that made Lu Li shudder. The strongest substitute power, time stop? Why would God? Why would he allow such a cheat-like method? Why would a substitute appear so easily? While Lu Li's normal personality was still trying to deny it, his rational personality had already found the answer. The two personalities who were connected instantly shared their thoughts. In the memory of the rational personality, the memory of the previous moment was like a fixed picture in his mind. He would never miss out on any details. However, the rational personality realized that he had lost a second of his memory. The shape of the ripples in the water, the clouds in the sky, the moving objects around, all the trajectories except for Ning Daoqi had deviated by 1 second. Ignoring Ning Daoqi, the factor that couldn't be calculated, all the frames of reference were faster than the set trajectory by a certain amount of time. It was exactly 1 second according to the human concept. They jumped from the state of the previous second to the state of the next second. It was like someone pressed fast forward. The image skipped 1 second and jumped to the next. No, this was an inference using himself as the frame of reference. If he were to look at it from a relatively objective point of view in the material world, he had actually disappeared from the timeline for 1 second. My 1 minute only has 59 wonders, Lu Li said as he came to a realization. It's definitely not because I've lost the memory of the previous second, because my body is still in the state of the previous second. It's definitely not because I've been completely controlled for 1 second, because Ning Daoqi could directly subdue me. And now, he only left his original position the second I disappeared from this world. Although this is extremely absurd, this is the only explanation. I disappeared from this world for a second. One of my seconds was stolen. This is the ability of Ning Daoqi's substitute. According to that scary rumor, he might have stolen the time of my existence. If that's the case, his minute will definitely be 61 seconds. The rational personality eliminated all the possible answers for Lu Li and gave her the most likely choice. But now, Lu Li was in a desperate situation. He was confident that he was not inferior to Ning Daoqi in martial arts, but facing an opponent who had 2 seconds more time than him, as long as he could drag it out until the next time he lost his sense of time, Lu Li would definitely lose. Ning Daoqi might have let go of the last chance because he was not familiar with the substitute's ability. However, with their combat intelligence, the same mistake would not happen twice. And now, there were only 59 seconds left before the next time he lost his sense of time. Lu Li definitely could not drag it out until the next time he lost his sense of time. The short 59 seconds could pass at any time. Lu Li's original personality might not be able to think of a solution, but the rational personality grasped the key very quickly. The faster he killed Ning Daoqi, the better it would be for their side. Lu Li felt that his blood was burning, the 5 acupuncture points on his spine were slightly swollen, and the 5 elements of Qilin blood in his body were sucking the energy crazily. The silver-white golden Qilin blood blended into his vital qi, followed Lu Li's spreading vital qi aura, and blended into the space within a radius of a few hundred feet, drawing the energy of the whole world. The pitch-black water Qilin blood was like a black hole, swallowing all the energy that Lu Li could come into contact with. He was like a black hole of humanity, containing the whole world. The yellow-brown earth Qilin vital qi and the heavy green wood Qilin vital qi strengthened Lu Li's weak body to the limit. Even though he was carrying the power to tear the world apart, it only made his bones and muscles break and shatter. As a material structure, they were completely destroyed under such a degree of overload. However, with the support of the wood and earth vital qi, miraculously, they did not completely collapse. Lu Li's consciousness was suffering a pain that was thousands of times worse than death by 1,000 cuts at that moment. This kind of horrifying torture made him faint instantly, but he would wake up the next moment, and this repeated for dozens of times. However, under the stubborn persistence of the rational personality, Lu Li did not even have the right to choose death. He could only curse the mad scientist who modified him in his heart. Not far away from here, Chen Ong suddenly came to a realization and scratched his hair, saying, "I seem to have forgotten to strengthen his weak body. A body of that quality can't withstand the madness of the 5 elements Qilin. If he wants to strengthen himself with the Qilin blood, it will take about a day to be able to modify a body that can be used. Forget it, who cares? He won't die anyway." 5 directions Qilin Genesis. In the area covered by the vital qi, the 5 directions Qilin energy destroyed all the relationships of space, energy, light, and structure. It separated the section of the river, including Ning Daoqi and Lu Li, from the heaven and earth, and redefined its order. The condensed 5 directions 5 elements true qi grabbed Ning Daoqi's chest. The blazing will of the Qilin's demonic thoughts was deeply contained in the vital qi, and the absolute rational martial arts wisdom was carried out from beginning to end. To put it bluntly, Lu Li's response was simple. By relying on the near-limitless endurance of her modified body and the mutual promotion and restraint of the 5 elements to create a world, she drew tremendous void mass and energy and crushed the space along with herself. At this time, only 13 seconds had passed. Ning Daoqi still had 46 seconds to endure. The crushing of the space started from the outside and approached the center. Ning Daoqi and Lu Li were right in the center. The first thing they lost was the way of retreat. One of them was fierce in the 5 qi, the Qilin blood was boiling, and his combat power was constantly rising at every moment. The other one was like a willow catkin in the wind, stubbornly holding on, displaying the essence of the 8 punches of Sans Ho to the fullest. However, Ning Daoqi was about to reach his limit. The pressure exerted by the crazy state of Lu Li's incarnation was approaching the limit of what he could endure. Facing the violent 5 qi brought by Lu Li from the front, and the collapsed space behind him blocking his way of retreat, Ning Daoqi really exerted his lifetime's potential. He gritted his teeth bit by bit until the critical point of time. The vital qi carried the pure will in Lu Li's shell and rushed out of her body. The 5 elements Qilin blood pulled the 5 glowing energy organ acupoints out of the shell. The 5 types of circulating Qilin blood spread into the field of vital qi, just like a circulating world and life. Lu Li felt that he had lost a layer of restraint and had come into contact with a wider world. Using the 5-colored blood as the foundation, his Zhen Qi turned into mist and hid in the air. The tangible blood carried a huge amount of void energy, as if this independent world was Lu Li's body. However, his body was frozen on the spot like a gray shell. In the next second, Lu Li disappeared. His body was like a pale shadow. It was independent from the world and couldn't feel or interfere with reality. Ning Daoqi also couldn't touch this shadow of time and space that didn't exist. Lu Li's will in the space stop. Lu Li's body on the river didn't exist in this time and space. Ning Daoqi was finally able to dodge Lu Li's storm-like attacks and get out from the flaw. He put his palm in front of Lu Li and planned to control him as soon as Lu Li's time was over. To be continued. Chapter 373. At the moment when Lu Li recovered from the stagnation of time, Ning Daoqi's palms were already on his body. However, the stiff and withered feeling that came from Lu Li's skin made Ning Daoqi quickly withdraw. But it was too late. The Kailan's blood gushed out from the void along with Lu Li's consciousness and returned to his original body in an instant. The body that was as stiff as dead wood was not seriously damaged, at least not to the extent of giving up. In contrast, the Kailan's madness of 5 elements might have damaged his body more seriously, but Lu Li still forced himself to make a move. He was like a cold god occupying a fragile carrier. The vital qi of 5 elements were bundled together and held in his right palm. Like a blade, it slashed across Ning Daoqi's chin. His white beard fell with the wind. Ning Daoqi wiped his smooth chin with a bitter smile and sighed, "I lost this round. It was just a fluke." Lu Li cupped his fist and said expressionlessly. He stood on the river with his hands behind his back. The indifference in his eyes gradually disappeared, and his body was filled with vitality. He was not as lifeless as before. Ning Daoqi was relieved and said with concern, "You seemed to be in a strange state of mind just now, but from what I saw, you looked like a selfless and emotionless god of Taoism." Lu Li clumsily dragged his broken body and said to an empty place in front of Ning Daoqi, "I did use a trick in this battle. In that state, I was emotionless and selfless, and I couldn't control what I would do." "With all due respect," Ning Daoqi sighed and said, "this is not a good thing for you, my friend. Although being emotionless and selfless is noble and almost like a god, there are 5 primordial spirit worries: lack of emotion, lack of thought, and purity. If you are in this state for a long time, you will naturally have weak emotions, less thoughts, and a cold heart. You may even become extremely egoistic and be infected with the indifferent demonic thoughts of plucking a hair for the benefit of the world. Although I said this because I am not familiar with you, it is not because I am scheming. Please listen to me, my friend. Don't use it unless it is a life and death situation." "It's not that I don't want to listen to your kind advice." Lu Li smiled bitterly and said, "There's actually another story behind this. I have no choice but to drink poison to quench my thirst." The bitterness on his face could be scraped off. How could Lu Li not know how terrifying the Heaven's Eye martial bone was? But in this short period of time, the Qilin's blood had gone berserk, and the powerful self-will contained in the blood had almost completely eroded him. He could even feel that the cell's will, which was as ferocious as the prehistoric times, was using him as a template to imitate and learn the human way of thinking. He wasn't sure if a consciousness similar to his own would be born in his blood if this continued. Lu Li even wanted to smile and say to the old man in front of him that if it were not for him holding them back, the extremely cruel and violent consciousness in his blood would have really eaten him in a few seconds. It was definitely eaten in the literal sense. The hunger that came from Lu Li's blood just now was definitely an evil feeling that wanted to devour Ning Daoqi, including his skin and bones, and even a few pieces of his soul. At that time, if it were not for the Heaven's Eye Lu Li's absolute rational and ruthless will to suppress them, Ning Daoqi would have probably seen the horrifying scene of Lu Li's blood leaving his body and pouncing on him, devouring everything. With the predatory instinct of the Qilin's demonic consciousness that came from its genes, Luli felt that Ning Daoqi would not be able to last more than 3 seconds. Even the victory just now was because of some kind of response that the Qilin's demonic consciousness had instinctively produced. They reacted as if they could predict the future. Only then did the Heaven's Eye Luli's supreme wisdom decipher the information contained in the blood and peek into a trace of the future. No one would have thought that during that period of time, Luli's greatest enemy and the most terrifying danger was not Ning Daoqi, but the Qilin's demonic consciousness in the space-time within his body. What was even more terrifying was that Luli realized that after this suppression, the Qilin's demonic consciousness had actually absorbed a part of the advantages of the Heaven's Eye personality that was suppressing it. The feeling that it gave him was not only madness and ruthlessness that devoured everything, but also a hint of coldness and extreme coldness. I'm really not confident that I can survive the backlash of the Qilin's demonic blood again. I'm afraid that when that time comes, that terrifying consciousness will devour my existence and turn me into a brand new Luli. Luli was very hesitant in his heart. He even had a demonic barrier that hated the world. What kind of madness did I have to agree to do such a terrifying transformation with that person? This is even worse than a god. At least a god's strengthening won't turn me into a demon. I can even become the nourishment for a certain consciousness after strengthening. Luli's eyes were filled with despair. Ning Daoqi, who was at the side, did not dare to go up and say anything. However, when Luli was thinking about this, in the most secret part of his heart, a part of himself that he had forgotten, seemed to be sneering coldly. Is that so? Ning Daoqi looked at Luli's state of despair, as if he would choose to leave the world at any time. Although he did not know what he had experienced, it must have been an extremely painful past where he could not choose. Ning Daoqi gave up on trying to persuade him and understood his difficulties. Just as Luli's will was about to collapse, his gaze suddenly became fierce and crazy. There was also a hint of extreme selfishness and coldness in the deepest part of his eyes. When Ning Daoqi saw such a gaze, he felt his hair stand on end. He had never seen such a demonic gaze in his life. It was a gaze that seemed to belong to an ancient ferocious beast and a world-destroying demon god. Ja! Ning Daoqi shouted, and the mantra that was infused with all his Taoist cultivation rang in Luli's mind with Ning Daoqi's calmness and attitude of letting go of all enmity and wariness. At that moment, to avoid triggering Luli's defensive instincts, Ning Daoqi basically handed his life over to Luli, who might go mad at any moment. As long as Luli released his true qi, he could end the life of the strongest in the Central Plains. If that were not the case, it would have been impossible for him to awaken Luli's consciousness and force him to fuse with Heaven's Eye primordial spirit to suppress Qilin's demonic thoughts to protect himself. Luli's eyes finally regained clarity. At that moment, he was in a state of absolute rationality. He gave up on all emotions and distracting thoughts and said to Ning Daoqi, "Fellow Taoist, you should already know what sort of terrifying existence is sealed in my body. Once it loses control, it might bring about a monstrous demonic calamity in this world and completely bury this world." In just a moment, he was forced to reveal his emotions, and he could not even maintain his state of absolute rationality. I knew this day would come, but I didn't expect that Qilin demon would come so soon. It's actually so terrifying. No, it should be because my will is too weak, and I gave it the chance to grow and perfect itself. Now I can barely suppress it like this, but I can't stop it from growing every minute and every second. There is only one person who can save me, save this world. I will seal my 5 senses and completely silence my consciousness. I hope I can by myself sometime. Fellow Taoist, please bring my body to the man under the tree downstream. Right now, only he can suppress Qilin demon. At this point, Luli smiled bitterly. This can be considered as completing the mission he gave me. Ning Daoqi said with a serious expression, "I understand. I won't let you down. To be continued. Chapter 374. Ning Daoqi was still worried that the location Lu Li mentioned was too vague. Under the big tree downstream was not a clear direction. If there was any delay, the demon Kirin inside Lu Li's body would be born, and it would be a disaster for the world. However, as he drove the boat, he soon understood why Lu Li only said, "under the big tree." This big tree was too obvious, and it was impossible to ignore it. From the small boat, he could see the canopy-like shade of the trees in the distance. In the curtain of night, it was like a resplendent silk curtain. Countless flowing brilliant veins supported the extremely beautiful canopy, like clouds or smoke. This was a sacred tree that should not have appeared in this world. Ning Daoqi took a boat to the bottom of the tree. Its canopy covered a huge area with a radius of 1 kilometer, and even spanned across the two sides of the Yangtze River. It covered a part of the starry sky above the heads of the passing boat. The veins of the branches were flowing with radiant energy, and the leaves were hanging like stars, dangerous and beautiful. In Ning Daoqi's senses, this huge tree was flowing with natural energy that was as vigorous and thick as the veins of the earth. The ground under his feet, the canopy above his head, and the aerial roots hanging down from the sky, were all filled with a vivid and dangerous aura. Before Ning Daoqi got off the boat and went ashore, the aerial root floating above the river started to move like a snake and interweaved into a soft nest in front of Ning Daoqi. Several finger-thick roots even wrapped around Lu Li's body. Ning Daoqi did not know if he should stop it or wait and see. He saw the aerial root lift Lu Li's body and put her on the soft nest. A few crystal-like blood vessels came out from between Lu Li's eyebrows and intertwined with the golden veins of the sacred tree's aerial root. Suddenly, her body relaxed, and she completely lost her life. Ning Daoqi turned pale with fright. He didn't know if he should cut off this strange meridian or not. Then, he saw another aerial root in front of him. It also had the same golden meridian and was floating in front of his chest in a friendly manner. Ning Daoqi suddenly understood. He carefully extended his finger over. The golden meridian fused into his fingertip and connected with his nerve. "Hello, I'm Eva." Ning Daoqi felt that someone was greeting him. "I'm Ning Daoqi. I was asked to send him here to find a person under the tree. I wonder where he is now?" Ning Daoqi was a little confused. He felt that everything that had happened today was beyond the understanding of an old man who had spent most of his life in the mortal world. However, he deduced that this mysterious consciousness should be related to the person under the tree. "Are you looking for Dr. Chinong? He's currently operating on someone else, so it might not be convenient for him to see you." Ning Daoqi did not know what the operation was, but he could understand the latter part. He asked, "But this Taoist brother is in danger. He said that only the man under the tree can save him. There should be a problem with the Qilin's demonic consciousness in his body. I can help. I'm currently awakening his consciousness and sharing the pressure from the Qilin's demonic consciousness." As he spoke, Ning Daoqi felt a sleeping consciousness, as well as a black thought that was sealed by that consciousness. This was the closest Ning Daoqi had come into contact with the Qilin demon. Although it was not very active, Ning Daoqi could still feel the instinctive fear that humans had when facing their natural enemy. He could also feel the primitive bestiality in its consciousness, which was filled with cruelty, brutality, and savagery. It was as if he could see the cruelty and selfishness of the beginning of life. The Qilin demon is very scary. It is the incarnation of the most primitive nature of all intelligent creatures. It condenses the most basic desire of life to survive, and at the same time, it extends this obsession to the negative side. Because it comes from all kinds of beasts, it contains the traces of evolution of all life, and at the same time, it represents endless evolution, so it is called the Qilin. The Qilin symbolizes the great power and potential that keeps evolving and absorbing the advantages of endless life. It is the king of all beasts, but at the same time, because of its extreme selfishness, It wants to devour and possess everything, and it hates everything except itself. This selfishness that comes from the origin of its genes is also called a demon. The Qilin demon devours and possesses everything, becoming the only path of evolution and obsession. My master created it, but he was also surprised by its greed and selfishness, so he sealed it in the body of Luli, who was the source of the sample. He hoped to get some interesting results. Eva slowly awakened Luli's consciousness and explained to them at the same time. He didn't tell me any of this. Luli, who had just woken up, said angrily. He only told me that the enhanced power was very powerful, but he didn't tell me that it would be this dangerous. He told me that it was safe. Master doesn't need to tell you this. No matter how dangerous the Qilin demon is to you, or even to me, it is just a harmless test subject to Master. No one can call themselves a demon in front of Master. To the Supreme Master, all dangerous demons are just his slaves. He is the demon of all demons, our Master. Eva revealed coldly. Primordial Sky Demon, you tricked me. Luli was almost going crazy. Primordial Sky Demon? Ning Daoqi's body trembled slightly. He suppressed the shock in his heart and asked, "Is the Primordial Sky Demon the one who planted the Qilin demon in Luli's body?" "Luli asked me to bring you to him." "That's right. Other than the Primordial Sky Demon, who created such a terrifying existence, who else can help Luli suppress the growth of the Qilin demon?" "Then, Eva, who are you?" Ning Daoqi turned around and asked. "You are the consciousness of the demon plant?" Luli vaguely guessed something. Eva replied, "Yes. In order to create a source of soldiers for their race in this world, and to defeat Nuwa and the rest of the dead, my master specially inspired my self-awareness and named me Divine Tree Eva. I have the great mission of infecting all plant life and unifying the consciousness of all living beings on a planet. Don't tell me you have weird neural vines growing out of your body like mine." Luli exclaimed in horror, "I saw it just now. Crystalline neural tissue is emerging from my blood. Those are not your nerves. Your nerves are in your body. Those are the nerves of the Qilin demon. The Qilin demon is the master of the blood in your body. I just borrowed its consciousness to pull you into this world. Moreover, neural vines are too primitive. Although Master gave me this ability, it is only a substitute in the early stages." Eva replied. "So, how are you going to carry out the order that Chenong gave you?" Luli asked curiously. Chapter 375. I will produce a consciousness virus that uses the tiniest bacteria as a carrier. As long as one is infected with the bacteria, my consciousness will invade their body and coexist with it. It will stimulate the energy of the living cells and make all the creatures on this planet a part of me. Then I will collapse my self-consciousness and pull all the self-consciousness into the emerald dream that you are in. Master will control, modify, and realize the world in Master's heart." Eva said fervently. Ning Daoqi looked up and saw a blurry shadow of Earth in this world. He did not know what it was, but he could feel that what Eva said was indeed from the bottom of her heart. He could feel that creatures like Eva could not hide their thoughts, or rather, they did not hide their consciousness at all. Their thoughts were transparent. A kind of fear rose in Ning Daoqi's heart. At this moment, he forgot about Yang Guang and the Bulsh *T of the righteous imperial court. There was only one thought in his mind: to stop the primordial demon's terrifying plan, to give everything he had. Is the one controlling Yang Guang also the primordial demon? Ning Daoqi asked with a trembling voice. Yes. Yang Guang is the great demon. According to his original plan, he was going to preserve the self-consciousness of the creatures on this planet. He was going to build an empire to unify the planet and crush all the rebellious ones. But Master woke up from his slumber. Master is so strong, Master is so great. How would he have time to play with you guys? This world can only have one will, and that is the will of the primordial demon. This world can only have one master, and that is the great primordial demon. Eva's consciousness was extremely fanatical. That kind of fearless obedience to a person almost infected Lu Li and Ning Daoqi. She said sincerely, and so, the great skyscraper demon Yang Guang died. His Majesty the primordial demon created me and gave me the great mission of controlling this planet for him. Now there are 800 million mortal monkeys on this planet. Among them, only China has 100 million mortals. The other places are all monkeys. I'll tire half of the monkeys to death, make His Majesty the primordial demon's royal carriage, brainwash 100 million mortals to become His Majesty's warriors, cross the infinite space and time, go to the world of Nuwa and the other dead species, and kill all of them. Eva, I want to dedicate everything to the great cause of His Majesty the primeval demon. Eva's voice was as innocent as a little girl's, but she had said such terrifying things. Her extremely fanatical consciousness made Ning Daoqi and Lu Li tremble. Eva, wake up first, Lu Li reminded her in a frightened voice. He deliberately ignored the reminder from the Lord God beside his ear. Help the primordial demon control the Tang dynasty world, create the heavenly devil star carriage, go to the mysterious divine weapon world, and slaughter the Protoss. The reward for killing Pangu and Nuwa. We also want to fight for the great cause of His Majesty the Sky Devil. Lu Li lied. I wonder what you're going to do, Eva? Operation? Eva, who had been in contact with the consciousness of plants since she was born, believed them very naively. She asked in confusion, what is action? As long as I nurture the Eva source body left behind by Master in my body, it will bear the fruit of the sacred tree. When the fruit ripens, Eva spores will burst out, and it will only take 3 days to infect this planet. What if an enemy wants to destroy it? Lu Li pretended to be worried. Who dares? Eva, I'll blast them to smithereens. Eva's consciousness was enraged. There are many bad people in this world, and there are many people who are not willing to obey His Majesty the Sky Devil. You have to be careful, don't you think so, fellow Ning? In order to win Eva's trust, Lu Li did not even hesitate to drag Ning Daoqi, who was next to her, into the same boat. Ning Daoqi had never lied in his life. At this time, for the sake of the world, he had to say with a red face, yes, Brother Lu is right. You're right. Eva thought and said, why don't you come and protect the fruit of the sacred tree? Don't let it be eaten before it explodes. Especially you have to control the Qilin demon. If the Qilin demon eats it, this plan will be over. When will the fruit of the sacred tree ripen? Lu Li seemed to be very enthusiastic and asked, we can come at the right time. 3 more months. Eva said dejectedly, if I can't control this world for His Majesty, Eva is useless. Lu Li and Ning Daoqi secretly heaved a sigh of relief. There was still time, but they immediately felt the urgency. Lu Li looked at the Qilin demon that was being suppressed by her consciousness and asked Eva, it's too dangerous for the Qilin demon to be in my body. It can control me at any time and ruin your plan. Can you remove it from my body or seal it or something? Sure. Eva's answer made Lu Li happy. But soon, her next words made Lu Li feel like she had fallen into an ice cave. I'll try my best to shoot you into the sun and help the Qilin demon devour the sun. It will take at least 5,000 years. Then it won't be a hindrance to His Majesty the primordial demon's great cause. Eva said proudly. Then I'll be dead. Lu Li retorted loudly. What is death? Is death that scary? Eva asked innocently. Lu Li said helplessly, if you know to kill the Celestials, why don't you know about death? Kill the Celestials. His Majesty the primordial demon is eternal. Eva didn't understand the meaning of death at all. She only knew to shout excitedly, and her consciousness was trembling. Lu Li tried to explain for a long time before Eva understood what he meant. You want to be separated from the Qilin demon. Eva can't do it. Eva floated around in the space of consciousness indifferently. Lu Li's eyes widened. How is that possible? Didn't you do my surgery? You are the only one that Master did it himself. The Qilin demon is essentially an existence of the same level as me. I can't create it. Only Master could combine the magical gene in your body in such a short time, reverse the source and create such a terrifying existence like the Qilin demon. It is embedded in your nature, and it is destined to replace you. Eva explained, the Qilin demon is the only existence on this planet that can restrain me. We are two sides of the same concept. I share the same life. Communication, exchange, and the source, it is the source of selfishness, greed, and extreme ego of life. If I am the first sacrifice of life, it is the greed of life's nature. In a sense, it is destined to devour me. Master's wisdom allowed him to see the essence of one is everything, everything is one in the great Tao. He split this path into two and created me and the Qilin demon. We promote each other and restrain each other. As long as the Qilin demon devours me, it can devour the entire universe and become the ultimate. One is everything. It's from one to everything. In other words, it's the path of devouring everything and merging them into one. Ning Daoqi said thoughtfully, this should represent the ambition and essence of the Qilin demon to devour everything to achieve the one and only. Everything is one, so it should be you. Lu Li came to a realization and said, it contains the consciousness of all living beings and becomes that one. One is extremely selfish, one is absolutely selfless. One represents itself to devour everything, and one gives up on itself to contain all living beings. So, it is the Qilin demon, and you are the divine tree. That's right. If the Qilin demon devours me, it is equivalent to completing itself. It will be millions of times stronger. By then, as long as it can sense the existence, it can devour it instantly. It will definitely be able to replace the universe with itself, Eva said nonchalantly. Hearing this terrifying news, Ning Daoqi could only smile bitterly and say, life is so difficult. You are the shell of the Qilin demon. Eva patted Lu Li's head and said, you are so useless. You don't seem to be a threat. I am so useless. I am sorry. Lu Li rolled her eyes and said, so the Qilin demon can devour me at any time and free itself from the cage. It will destroy the entire world. Ning Daoqi and Eva were stunned. They suddenly realized the real danger of the entire world. It would take 3 months for the Tree of God to destroy the world, but if Lu Li was devoured by the Qilin demon and then turned to devour Eva, the world would not last 3 days. Chapter 376. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? TalkNet, providing you with exciting novels to read. I think there's a way. Eva hesitated. The colorful light ball that represented her was blinking rapidly. Even Ning Daoqi could feel her hesitation. Eva finally made up her mind and said to Lu Li, Master wanted to use the quantum information valve to restrict the Qilin demon's consciousness in your body, but you're too useless. Eva said angrily, you even let the Qilin demon devour more than half of the martial soul that you cultivated with your soul. In the end, the Qilin demon gained the upper hand. Master is a great man. Why would he choose a piece of trash like you to carry the Qilin demon's consciousness? Is Master not satisfied with Eva? Does Master want the Qilin demon to devour Eva to control this world? Eva was so sad that her spherical consciousness stopped glowing. Lu Li could hear the sadness in the young girl's voice. If this continued, this little girl might sacrifice herself to fuse with the Qilin demon in her body to fulfill the primordial heavenly demon's great cause. He quickly said, I think this should be the heavenly demon emperor's test for us. Otherwise, why would he let me meet you? You're right. Eva regained her composure and continued, your martial spirit, victorious battle, is one of the strongest martial spirits. Just from its name, I can tell that it will be the strongest to the point of exploding. Even if it's the first awakening, it should have 4 out of the 18 special abilities, such as thoughtless tranquility, formless martial art, divine understanding, sever nature thoughts, innate earth birth, it can definitely suppress the Qilin demon's demonic nature. I don't know what you did, but you let the Qilin demon devour more than half of your martial soul and awakened its ability. Do you know why you could break the one escape when you were fighting with this guy's substitute? Do you know why you could peek into the future 1 second later and deal with it in advance? Eva was dancing. The entire light ball was blinking intensely. Little friend Lu, you've already peeked into my future before you lost that period of time. No wonder Ning Daoqi finally understood. Luli was even more confused. Isn't that my body's automatic reaction? It's the devil Qilin. Bastard. Eva said angrily. The Qilin demon devoured your martial soul battle victory and awakened the formless martial soul and the Tao of utmost sincerity. The path of utmost sincerity can foresee. Although it was not as good as being able to observe the past and the future after mastering the Dharma World Depository martial spirit, peeking into all the world lines within 3 seconds and was known as invincible within 3 seconds. Birth and destruction of the world, one thought of the universe's terrifying power. But I can also sense the thoughts of my opponent during battle, and I can even predict the possible actions of my opponent, achieving the effect of prophecy. If I can completely see through a person, I can even toy with him in the palm of my hand during battle. Love go small say netquits a very powerful ability. According to my speculation, you should have inherited a portion of the victorious fighting spirit's abilities, right? After all, it grew with your soul as the material. Eva was confused. Do you feel anything special? She looked at Luli expectantly. However, Luli only shook her head blankly. My entire body feels very special right now. Whenever I think about such a terrifying thing flowing through my body, I get goosebumps all over my body. Useless! Eva scolded angrily. I'm starting to suspect that you're fertilizer for Master to cultivate the devil Qilin. He used your body as a petri dish to cultivate the devil Qilin's body, and used your soul as fertilizer for the martial soul to grow. Then, the devil Qilin will eat your martial soul and grow smoothly. Damn it, why don't I have such fertilizer? I think that's possible. F***ck, it's very possible. Luli said in shock as she recalled the personality that Chen Ong had displayed during the surgery. Damn fertilizer. Eva's words made Luli's status lower and lower. Let's get back to the present. Isn't our goal to stop the devil Qilin from devouring me? Luli said anxiously. We can talk about other things later. Right now, we have to think of a way to control the devil Qilin. There are 3 key points to controlling the devil Qilin. First, you have to strengthen your victorious fighting martial spirit and suppress the growth of the devil Qilin martial spirit. This is to prevent the 3-in-1 system of God, demon, and Buddha from losing balance. After the demon and Buddha become one, they will devour me, the God. Every time your martial spirit becomes stronger, it will suppress the growth potential of the devil Qilin martial spirit. Of course, it will also stimulate its growth. So, we need the second point. Suppress its growth. Use something powerful to suppress the devil Qilin so that it won't eat away at your existence. The last point is the buffer. To prevent the devil Qilin from going berserk under the suppression, it won't be able to control its greed and fight you. Trust me, if it fights, it won't be the one to die. You have to periodically relieve the burning desire in the devil Qilin's heart. Luli hesitated. What does it desire? Don't tell me it's the butt. Get out! Eva roared. It wants to devour and possess. Remember, the devil Qilin is an extremely selfish being. It wants to devour this world at all times. So, you just need to let it out and eat a few powerful beings. Eat people? Luli's eyes widened. It wants to eat people? Yes. It's so cruel. Eva said with a hint of worry. Even if you do that, we are still missing something. Ning Daoqi's tone was calm, but it was hard to ignore the determination in his eyes. Whether it is the growth of the martial spirit in your body or the thing that suppresses the devil Qilin, we have no clue. Yes, Eva said blankly. If we were in the world of the Protoss, we could just rob their weapons and energy. But this world is very barren. It seems like there is no energy that can suppress the devil Qilin. Unless you can get the energy core of the star carriage that Master is making, but that thing is not finished yet. Star carriage energy core. Luli felt that this thing sounded familiar. Suddenly, he had an idea. You are talking about He Sure Bai. He took out a strange jade from his personal space. It was shrouded in light purple energy. It was very mysterious and luxurious. Eva walked around it in surprise. Why do you have this thing? The shell of the energy core. Although it hasn't been charged yet, it should be able to function. No, it's already charged to 5%. Why is it in your hands? Chapter 377. By dawn, Luli and Ning Daoqi had already left the Divine Tree's space of consciousness and were sailing upstream. Luli wiped the heshabi tied to her chest and said with a wry smile, Eva speculated that the incomplete heshabi can only suppress the demon Qilin's demonic nature for a month. And this is because the noble qi of the dragon vein can restrain the demonic nature. So, sigh. Ning Daoqi sighed and said with a wry smile, I'll persuade the monks of the Jingzhai and Buddhism to give up the fight for the throne and return the dragon vein qi to the heshabi. They'll make the right choice for the sake of the common people. The power of the righteous path should be used to stop the primordial demon's plot and not indulge in the fight for supremacy. Demon Qilin, Divine Tree Eva, we don't know how many terrifying tricks the primordial demon has up his sleeve. He can overturn the whole world at any time. I'll do my best to persuade the righteous path, the evil path, and all the major powers to unite and seal the primordial demon once again. Ning Daoqi looked at the rising sun on the horizon with his beard standing on end. Luli wanted to resist fearlessly like him after seeing his spirited expression. But all his lofty aspirations were scattered when he recalled how Chen Ong had created Eva and the demon Qilin in a joking manner. He could only sigh in the face of such a powerful demon that even a god couldn't control. He gazed into the distance worriedly, feeling lost for the future of himself and the windchasers. The boat traveled for 2 days. Luli and Ning Daoqi were both top experts of this world and shouldn't have needed such a long time. But they had to guard against the demon Qilin's counterattack and help Luli familiarize himself with the power of the heshabi. Luli's strength wasn't as serious as Chen Ang's before the refinement. Releasing the demon Qilin to eat people would be fatal. Just as they were about to reach the Tsutong Gorge, the boat caught up with a fleet with a flag with the word Song hanging high above. Luli saw such a flag from afar and said dumbfoundedly, Isn't that the Song clan ship? He was quite worried because he didn't know which team was supporting the Song clan. The windchasers were exhausted because of the demon King Chen Ang's matter and didn't have the energy to investigate the other teams. Therefore, he was at a loss. The Song clan's big ship also seemed to have noticed this small boat. Ning Daoqi noticed that a small boat had been lowered from the big ship and was rowing toward them. There was an old man with a silver beard standing on it. He cupped his fists toward the boat from afar and said, Brother Ning, you've come from afar. Why don't you come aboard and reminisce about old times? Ning Daoqi recognized that it was Song Lu. He let out a long laugh, and the small boat under his feet shot out like an arrow to meet Song Lu's small boat. Song Lu brought Ning Daoqi and Luli onto the big ship. As soon as he stood on the deck, he saw a red figure leaning on the mast, smiling at Luli and Ning Daoqi. Isn't this Brother Lu? Why aren't you currying favor with Yang Guang? Could it be that you're abandoning the dark side for the light? Fu Hongyan. Luli was both sad and happy when she heard the voice. Fu Hongyan, who was dressed in red, had the charm of a girl. However, she had a strong temperament and the freedom of a man, which made it hard for people to dislike her. Therefore, Ning Daoqi didn't mind when Song Lu apologized to her with his words. On the contrary, he admired her very much. Fu Hongyan turned over on the mast and landed in front of Lu Li barefoot. Ning Daoqi seemed to think of something when he saw her barefoot red dress. He smiled thoughtfully. Although the members of the chosen team are a group of bastards, they are also a group of powerful bastards, not to mention people like Jin Huanzhong from the universe team. Fu Hongyan's voice was directly transmitted into Lu Li's consciousness. She asked seriously, "I don't know what happened to your team, but it must be something extraordinary for someone like Jin Huanzhong to tell Jiang Taiyan not to take revenge. I went to see the palm that destroyed the chosen team, and I also saw the knife in the consciousness of the other members of the universe team. Lu Li, I've always admired you. If you didn't insist on maintaining the inheritance of the Windchasers, you would have been a member of our Hongyan team. But when I saw you this time, I felt very unfamiliar. It's like there's a fierce beast wearing Lu Li's skin standing in front of me. Do you know? My intuition has been warning me that you're very dangerous now, like a hungry monster controlled by evil thoughts. But my reason and emotion believe you, so I came to you, like you're asking for an answer. What happened?" Lu Li was silent for a long time. Finally, she sent a message, "Stay away from my team. Don't get close to me. If there's a chance, I don't care what price I have to pay. Run away from this world." Fu Hongyan looked at him deeply, turned around, and left. On the other side, Song Lu was still introducing Ning Daoqi to the other people of the Song clan, but Lu Li just stood there indifferently. After Ning Daoqi met Song Ji and Song Sherdao, he asked curiously, "The meeting at Xutong this time is very important. It's a big change in the Central Plains in 60 years. It's so important that it's unprecedented. Why don't I see Sir Skyblade?" "Elder Ning." Song Sherdao bowed and said, "My father didn't come with us. He went to Sichuan alone to meet an old friend." Ning Daoqi thought of the emotional entanglement between Song Ke and Fan Qinghui that was secretly spread in Jianghu. He nodded with understanding and sighed again. "Unfortunately, I had something to ask the head of the Song clan. But I still missed it. The meeting at Xutong this time is an alliance of all forces against Yang Guang. But I know a more urgent secret this time, so I can only obstruct it. I originally wanted to reach a consensus with the head of the Song clan to reduce the possible opposition pressure at the meeting. But it's really unfortunate this time. I hope the head of the Song clan won't stand against me at that time." Ning Daoqi sighed. Song Sherdao, who was beside him, was puzzled. "What's the change that alarmed you?" Ning Daoqi looked at Lu Li, who was reluctant to leave, sighed and shook his head. "A really terrifying undercurrent is eroding the foundation of the Great Sway. The matter of Yang Guang that the righteous forces are worried about is just some waves on the surface of the undercurrent. Compared to the real danger, it's just a minor disease. It's nothing to worry about. I'm only afraid that the righteous forces have their own plans. They only focus on these minor diseases and ignore the real threat. If the righteous forces can't unite, I'm afraid that the people will be in trouble." Ning Daoqi's tone was full of worry and sorrow, which also affected Song Sherdao. He asked in a low voice, "Then what should the righteous forces do to unite?" "Give up all plans, bear the responsibility for the people, sacrifice everything you have, and fight for the people of the world." Ning Daoqi said sternly, "If anyone tries to obstruct this, I will resolutely stop them for the sake of the overall situation." Chapter 378. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? TalkNet, providing you with wonderful novels to read. The big ship went against the current and arrived at Xutong Gorge in less than half a day. The river was high and the waves were strong. It was the most dangerous part of the three gorges. The water situation was not very good. Even the Yanxi Pile, the place where the grand meeting was held, was only 1 person tall and 3 meters wide. Love Go Little Talk Net Kaluli stood at the bow and looked up. The Yanxi Pile was standing in the turbulent river. The upper half of its body emerged from the water. It was as if it was armed with a sword and wanted to call back the river. The front wave of the river rushed towards the rock, and the back wave pushed forward, creating a sky full of spray. Every time the river water rushed towards the Yenchi pile, the waves in front of the Yenchi pile would surge into the sky, mist would rise, whirlpools would spin, and the earth would shake. The sound of thunder could be heard from 10 miles away. This is the wonder of the Yenchi pile, which has been passed down for thousands of years in Shu. Song Sherdao came to Lu Li's side and introduced, "Our Song family's ships pass here every year. The boatmen are experienced, so there won't be any danger. Brother Lu, have you ever been to Tsutong? If so, please don't laugh at me." "I have been to Tsutong." Lu Li looked at the gorge and the strange rocks on both sides curiously and replied, "But I have never seen the Yenchi pile." What Lu Li didn't say was that the Yenchi pile was destroyed by the government in the winter of 1958 because it obstructed shipping. Only in the story world of the Sui and Tang dynasties could one see the wonder of the Yenchi pile. "Look." Lu Li pointed to Song Sherdao and said, "This Yenchi pile is a turbulent undercurrent in the middle of the river. Ships will be disturbed by the turbulent current when they come here. Thousands of rivers converge here, and the current is extremely rapid. It's dangerous even for a big ship like us. If it's a small boat commonly used by fishermen, it will capsize or crash into the Yenchi pile and be smashed into pieces in an instant." "Why don't we destroy this huge rock?" Lu Li asked. Song Sherdao laughed in understanding and said while shaking his head, "Brother Lu, it's not like our Song clan hasn't considered what you're thinking. The Tsutong Mountain is a pile of rocks that makes the Shu Road difficult to traverse. Our Song clan loses thousands of gold in goods and manpower here every year. If we can really deal with it, our Song clan will be the first to do so. But you don't know that Tsutong is a place where thousands of rivers converge. There is plenty of water. Other than the mountains, there are also countless rocks and reefs under the water. Since ancient times, the undercurrents here have been complicated and changing according to the weather. Going under the river is a dead end. The people who fell into the water here have never been rescued alive. Even if someone were to chisel away the stones, they would only be able to destroy the part above the river surface." When Lu Li heard this, she could not help but smile bitterly and said, "If we really cut off the part above the river surface, wouldn't we be killing the caravan passengers?" Song Sherdao nodded and said, "The craggy lake is as big as an elephant, Chu Tang cannot be reached. Yan'an was as big as an ox, Chu Tang could not be left alive. The craggy lake is as big as a horse, Tsutong cannot enter it. The craggy lake was as big as a bundle, and Tsutong could not touch it. The craggy lake was as big as a tortoise, and the pond could not be seen. The craggy lake is as big as a turtle, Tsutong can't be sailed. If one day the craggy lake really can't be seen anymore, I'm afraid that along the Yangtze River in Sichuan, every family will mourn and weep. The sailors here are all controlled by the Water Dragon Gang. They are most familiar with the hydrology and geography of Tsutong. In this event, the Water Dragon Gang is in charge of disposing of sundries. If Brother Lu is interested in the scenery of Tsutong, I'll let them arrange it." "No need." Lu Li refused with a smile. The ship had already passed the craggy lake, and was not far from the port. Lu Li pointed to a newly built wooden port on the shore and said, "I saw it. That should be the place where the Water Dragon Gang set up." At this time, the two sides of the river had become a little flat, but there were still some strange peaks and rocks standing on both sides. Just in front of the port, there was a huge rock like an eagle's beak, on which a thin figure stood. When they got closer, they could see that the person was dressed differently from the Central Plains. He had a pair of eyes like a dove, staring coldly at the ship of the Song clan. "Turks?" Song Sherdao's brow creased in displeasure. The Song clan was the most persistent of the four great clans. Most of the reason why they opposed the northern aristocratic clans was that the northern aristocratic clans had been intermarrying with the Xianbei nobles for a long time and despised their integrity and bloodline. During the chaos of the 5 barbarians, most of the clans that moved south had a blood feud with the foreign races. As the leader of the southern clans, of course, the Song clan would not have any good impression of the mixed bloods in the north. They were even more hostile to foreign races such as the Turks and the Xianbei. As the ship continued forward, revealing the long line of Turkic tents on the shore, Song Shidao's face was so gloomy that it could drip water. With Lu Li's eyesight, she could naturally see the Turkic soldiers coming and going from the tents. She recalled Song Shidao's introduction of the Water Dragon Gang. As one of the 8 gangs and 10 societies, the Water Dragon Gang controlled the waterways of Sichuan. With the influence of the Song clan in the south and the marriage alliance with Fort Invincible, it would be the biggest joke in the world to say that the Water Dragon Gang was not under their control. But now the Turks were stationed in Sichuan, and Song Shidao, a young master of the Song clan, knew nothing about it. Water Dragon Gang. Turks. What a good Water Dragon Gang. Song Shidao was so angry that he laughed. You are from the Song clan? As soon as the boat reached the shore, 2 short men with foul-smelling bodies jumped onto the boat. They spoke to Song Shidao in a strange Chinese language. This isn't the place where the Song household docks. You two follow me, how dare you? Song Shidao said angrily. Sichuan is still the world of the Han clan. It's not your turn to make decisions for me. This meeting is a great event jointly organized by the Turks, Goryeo, and the aristocratic families and the Revolutionary Army. This is not the land of the Sui dynasty, but a neutral land. The place where the king of the Turks is located is the land of the Turk. Both the Turks and Goryeo are big countries. If you didn't offer the land here, how could you sit with us? What is the identity of our king? He is equal to the Sui emperor. Sitting with you, the ministers of the Sui dynasty, is already lowering his status. How dare you say more? The owner of this place, the Water Dragon Gang, adheres to neutrality and entrusted us to manage the port near the king's tent. If assassins sneak in, can you bear the responsibility? The Turk asked with a sneer. The Turks and Goryeo are just a country of beasts. A group of monkeys wants to sit with humans? Thinking about the appearance of the Turkic king, it makes me think of the phrase, wearing a crown on a monkey. Fu Hongyan fanned her nose as she walked out of the cabin. A mocking smile appeared on her beautiful face as she glanced at the 2 Turks with disdain. What is the Shenwu team playing at? They just let the Truth team climb on top of them? Fu Hongyan sneered, looking at the Turks on the shore as if they were ants. Fu Hongyan looked at Lu Li with an inexplicable gaze and came to the bow of the ship. The face of the Turk next to her was about to drip blood. He roared and swung his scimitar at the back of Fu Hongyan's head. A loud shout in Turkic came from the shore, but that person did not pay any attention to it. He was bent on killing Fu Hongyan. Song Shidao, who was beside her, couldn't save her in time and quickly shouted, "Danger!" Lu Li only sneered and flashed toward the other Turk. Just when the knife-wielding Turk arrived behind Fu Hongyan, the woman didn't even turn her head. She lightly stretched out a sleeve and wrapped it around the hands of the Turk. In the blink of an eye, Fu Hongyan had thrown him off the boat and sent a burst of energy from her palm. Under the gazes of the dozens of people on the boat and the countless people on the shore, she had torn the Turkic expert to shreds, his blood splashing onto the river. On the other side, Lu Li also broke the neck of the other Turk and threw him off the ship. Who allowed you to make decisions for me? Fu Hongyan's voice resounded on both sides of the river. You idiots who are being controlled and manipulated? Do you know who is the one making the decisions? The ones making the decisions here are the leaders, not you NPCs. As NPCs, you have to be obediently manipulated by the players, understand? Your only choice is to obey or die. Bitch. By the time the sinister-eyed Turk expert boarded the ship, it was already too late. He looked at Fu Hongyan's face with lust and cursed. People of the Song household, is this woman representing you to provoke the Turks? Are you people who betray the alliance and kill your allies? Hand over that woman, or else, you'll be breaking the alliance with us. To be continued. Chapter 379. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Song Sherdao suppressed his anger and asked coldly, May I know who you are? I am the son of the Chimin Khan, Ashina Doki. Love Go Small Say Netkuhi is a direct descendant of the great Ashina family, born by the heavens and the earth, placed by the sun and moon. Ashina Domi's malicious gaze ruthlessly swept over Fu Hongyan as he sneered. This woman has insulted the Turks, insulted the honor of our Ashina clan, and even killed an envoy of the Khagan. Is this how you Han treat us Turkic Khaganate? Ashina Dozi said coldly. Hand this woman over to me, let me hang her under the king's tent, only then can we wash away the humiliation you have brought us. Impossible. Song Sherdao snapped. Ashina Duchi remained unmoved. Then wash it with blood. If the Turks declare war on your Song household, we'll use your Song household's blood to pay tribute to our fallen warriors. Song Sherdao placed his hand on his sword, but was stopped by a large hand. He looked up and found that his uncle, Song Lu, was already in front of him, looking at him with a hint of dissuasion and disappointment. He turned to face Ashina Dodi, and said in a deep voice, The Five Alliance is a matter of great importance. None of us can make the decision. How can a little brat like you question it? Since you know how serious this matter is, why do you still dare to provoke me? Ashina Do slapped the side of the ship and asked sternly, You allowed a woman and a kid to kill our men. Is this how much you value this alliance? Song Lu glared at Fu Hongyan angrily and suppressed his dissatisfaction. In his heart, Fu Hongyan was, after all, a guest of the Song clan. As the host, he still had to stand up for her despite her foolishness. Otherwise, the Song clan would lose all face. At this time, the people of the Li clan had also learned of the conflict at the port. A young prince hurried over from the camp and saw Song Lu and Ashina Dupa in a deadlock on the ship. A hint of joy flashed through his eyes, but he persuaded, Prince Dupa is an honored guest who has come to sign the treaty. He is the younger brother of the Khan and has an incomparably honorable status. On the matter of the Turkic envoy's death, we will definitely give His Highness a reasonable explanation. I hope that the two of you will not hold a grudge and ruin this alliance, incurring the wrath of the Five Alliance leaders. Ashina Do pointed at Fu Hongyan and said, Hand over this woman and that man, and I will let bygones be bygones. Lu Li, who was pointed at by him, stood with her arms crossed and sneered. Fu Hongyan also acted as if it was none of her business, as if she could let them do whatever they wanted. Li Yuanji roughly understood what had happened. He straightened his expression and said solemnly, Mr. Silverbeard, it's not that I don't want to give the Song clan face, but the current situation is too vile. Why don't we just hand the two of them over to the heir to deal with? Li Yuanji. Song Lu's tone became heavy. Do you have the slightest backbone to bow and scrape to the Turkic people? Li Yuanji's expression became cold, and he asked indifferently, The alliance hasn't even begun, and someone has already committed murder. Who can bear the responsibility? Is His Highness' words wrong in the slightest? Hand them over to His Highness, and after His Highness has dealt with them, they will be released. Love Go Little Say, Net, Ka believe that His Highness will spare their lives for the sake of the big picture. Before he could finish his words, he saw Ashina Do's greedy eyes sweep over Fu Hongyan's body, and he said with a smile, Of course I won't kill her, I'm just punishing her. After saying this, he laughed maliciously. For some reason, Li Yuanji also laughed along, and for a moment, the stiff atmosphere actually became somewhat harmonious. Song Lu saw that Song Shirdao's eyes were almost spitting fire, and he said in a low voice, Shirdao, don't indulge in your private affairs, we are in the wrong in this matter. It was just a small matter of the Turkic people provoking us, but, sigh. You are really out of your mind, child. Song Sherdao suppressed his anger and said, Are you going to let the Turkic people bully you like this, uncle? Of course I won't agree to this, but they are in the right in this matter, and it is already impossible for Miss Fu to escape unscathed. At most, we can find a reason to detain Miss Fu, and wait for the 5 alliance leaders to decide. With the support of our Song household, and considering the influence of the merciful boathouse, and Grandmaster Ning on our side, Miss Fu will be fine. Nothing bad will happen to Miss Fu. She will just suffer for a while. And she. Song Lu wanted to say that she asked for it, but he remembered that there were still people present, so he didn't continue. Are you done discussing? Fu Hongyan looked at everyone present with a smile. Although the smile on her face was warm, her eyes were cold. This kind of disrespectful and ungrateful tone made Song Lu frown, and he thought to himself, This woman has the heart of a beast, and she has no manners at all. This also attracted the attention of Li Yuanji and Ashina Dodi. Fu Hongyan lowered her eyebrows and smiled faintly. The charm in her eyes could be said to be peerless, and it made Song Sherdao dazed. The greed in Ashina Dodi's eyes became even stronger. Only Luli shook her head and walked away from her. Since it's too late, you can die now. Fu Hongyan said this to Ashina Dodi, and she did the same. A bright red light flicked out of her white fingertip, and it swept past Ashina Dodi's neck at an unimaginable speed. Her red dress fluttered in the wind, and she climbed up the mast, looking down at everyone below from a familiar angle. A bunch of ants deciding my life and death over there, how laughable! Her eyes finally revealed her true nature, the arrogance of looking down on them. 5 alliance? Do you think this is an alliance between the 5 of you? He was gravely mistaken. All of you are just bargaining chips. The real alliance of the 5 parties should be a gathering of me, Fu Hongyan, the Wind Chaser, Luli, the Viper, Stephen, the Truth, Hazem, and Divine Marshal. But what did I see here today? Fu Hongyan gazed at Ashina Tutu's corpse, at Song Lu and Li Yuanji, and sneered. The meaning behind her words caused Song Lu's famed silver beard to rustle and his face to turn as red as blood. Only when Fu Hongyan's gaze slowly swept over the camp on the shore and the Turkic tents did Fu Hongyan finally say, Jumping clowns! A gathering of clowns! Fu Hongyan suddenly shouted, Are all the members of the Divine Martial team dead? Letting this group of trash dirty this old lady's eyes. They are also a group of people who hide their heads and show their tails, scheming and scheming. Didn't you want to beat them into submission, but are not willing to do it yourself? A group of so-called wise men, petty people. Since you are using me as a knife, then you must have thought of a backup plan? That familiar bright red light once again appeared towards the Turkic tents on the shore. At this time, Fu Hongyan also had a crimson-red longsword in her hand, and she pointed it towards the sky. She sang, The 9 heavens Xian Kuan transform into divine thunder. The majestic might of the heavens lead by the sword. Luli was dumbfounded. There is no need to use the godly sword lightning-wielding true art. Hongyan's temper is as bad as always. The bones of a beautiful woman truly live up to her reputation. Chapter 380. Dressed in red, the reflection of the figure was like a flower dancing in the wind, her white hands guiding, the supreme technique of the blue clouds sect, divine sword-wielding lightning true formula, displayed in her hands like this, the vast might of the heavens, the sharp sword chi pierced through the blue dome of heaven. At this moment, there was a majestic might that could seize the heaven and earth, like a lightning serpent crisscrossing the 9 heavens. On the ship that she stepped on, and even in the Turkic camp on the shore, there was no one who did not feel a chill in their heart. Song Lu opened his mouth slightly, wanting to say something, but he found that he could not say anything. Although she was a woman, but at this moment, this scene, it could only be described as looking down on the world. Song Lu could even feel the disdain in her eyes. I, Fu Hongyan, spread my wings above the 9 heavens, looking down on the world. I have never attached myself to others. My pride, my backbone, my dignity, everything is entrusted to my sword, Hongyan. In this life, I am independent and strong. Everything that my identity as a woman has brought me, everything that I have lost, I will use my sword to take back. With a proud and condescending gaze, looking down from the sky, that figure dressed in red like blood let out a long roar. The sky was filled with lightning, thunder rumbled, spreading far and wide, as if tearing the world apart. At this moment, even the people on the ship could not withstand this terrifying pressure. Song Lu's expression was dazed, his face pale and his beard disheveled, as if he had suffered a great humiliation and blow. Song Sherdao did not know what he saw from Fu Hongyan's eyes. He only supported his uncle, looking at that domineering figure in the sky. And Li Yuanji was in a state of panic. He did not even have the interest to glance at the corpse at his feet. Like a stray dog, he curled up to avoid Fu Hongyan's gaze. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. At this time, someone in the Turkic camp finally reacted, roaring, "How dare you!" A Turkic expert with a high nose, deep eyes, and disheveled beard gripped a steel spear as he thundered out of the tent. As he stared at Fu Hongyan on the mast, the muscles in his body tightened like a bowstring. His entire body bent into 3 bows. His chest and arms formed a bow, his waist and legs formed a bow, and finally, his eyes and energy formed a bow. Like a marble statue, his solidified body accumulated a copious amount of power. The long spear in his hand was like an arrow, and his power and true energy poured out. The long spear was like a shooting star shooting upwards. "Fool!" Lu Li said coldly. Just as the spear was about to strike, the thunder and lightning in the sky seemed to have found a vent. The thunder pythons and electric snakes intertwined and converged together at the speed of light, striking down along the fine steel spear. The Turkic expert did not even have the chance to make a sound before his body was melted into charcoal by the lightning. The half-melted spear stabbed into the ground next to him, and the thunder and lightning that had been accumulating in the sky seemed to have found their leader, and thousands of lightning bolts surged toward the Turkic camp. With the steel spear as the center, thousands of lightning bolts surged, bringing with them a terrifying aura of destruction. God! God! Li Yuanji trembled in fear, his body going limp on the ground. Fu Hongyan was completely unaware of the impact that the sight of her wielding heavenly retribution had on the people present. She did not even care who the thunder-wheeled true art of the godly sword had killed. Only those who could survive the lightning bolts were worthy of her attention. There is a beauty in the north, peerless and independent. A single sword can topple a city, and a single glance can topple a country. Who knows whether to topple a city or a country? Beauties are hard to come by. Lu Li softly murmured, and then she gave a deep sigh, as expected of the supreme beauty, a woman of astonishing talent who has fused the 2 paths of cultivation and martial arts together. To be able to fuse the thunder-wheeled true art of the godly sword with her Hongyan swordplay. Lu Li's eyes were filled with bitterness and she sighed. In comparison, a fellow like me who can't even control the cheat that I came across, really. If Hongyan were to meet that fellow, that would be the most suitable. Chen Eng's figure appeared in his mind. He knew that beneath Fu Hongyan's bewitching exterior was a crazy and proud heart. If she were to meet Chen Eng, she would either be reborn from her frenzied pursuit of power, gaining the power to look down on all, or she would lose herself in her obsession with power. At this moment, the Turkic camp had been completely ravaged by the lightning, and the 3,000 elite Turkic soldiers had been reduced to a pile of charred corpses. Countless famous Turkic experts, some of whom were no less famous than Song Lu and Song Ji, had been reduced to ashes before their eyes. At some point, Ning Daoqi had also arrived at Lu Li's side. Looking at the surging lightning in the sky, his eyes were filled with yearning and complicated emotions. The Turkic Kaghan and 3 other Turkic experts were surrounded by sharp Jinchi that did not belong to this world, and they struggled in the hellish lightning. Although they were in a sorry state, their lives were not in danger. Seeing this, Song Lu turned to Fu Hongyan and advised, "Miss Fu, the ignorant Turkic barbarians have offended you. You can kill them, but you can't kill the Turkic Kaghan." Song Ji also chimed in, "The Turkic crown prince is seeking his own death, but you can't kill the Turkic Kaghan. If the Turkic Kaghan were to invade our borders, we would all be sinners." But it was hard to tell whether Fu Hongyan had heard their words or not. She slowly walked toward the center of the lightning, and the moment the violent lightning came into contact with her sword qi, it turned into gentle flowing water that intertwined with her jinqi. Brilliant flashes of light surrounded the red-robed beauty, beautiful and dangerous. The crowd could only watch as she walked up to the Turkic Kaghan, raised her sword to her eyebrows, and with a sweet smile, a shadow of her sword abruptly cut through the air. As if painting a painting, Fu Hongyan wielded her sword intent, connecting with the lightning in the sky. "Fu Hongyan, stop!" Hazem finally stood up and tried to stop her. "Don't you know that it is difficult to find a beauty that can topple a city and a country?" For the first time, the Hongyan swordsmanship that cultivated both martial and jinchi was displayed in this world. Amidst the lightning, the silhouette of a peerless beauty suddenly appeared. It was as if Fu Hongyan was smiling sweetly. But Hazem looked as if his father had died, and he roared in Turkish. The divine fire jinchi that he exerted with all his might was like a piece of paper in the face of the beauty formed by the lightning jinchi, unable to withstand a single blow. In God's space, Hazem had heard of this woman who wanted to practice both cultivation and martial arts. But because of his religion, he looked down on women from the bottom of his heart. He thought that Fu Hongyan was just a plaything controlled by men. But it was not until this time, when he faced Fu Hongyan and combined the two self-created Hongyan swordsmanship, that he understood for the first time how terrible this woman was. "Who the hell told me that Fu Hongyan is a woman who doesn't care about her appearance?" Hazem shouted in Turkic. "She is a narcissist. Crazy. Narcissism has reached the threshold of God. If it was not a narcissist, who would create an absolutely perfect self in the sword intent? If it was not a crazy person, how could she reach the threshold of God just because she fell in love with him?" The Hongyan swordsmanship was a poem created by a narcissist who fell in love with him wholeheartedly and praised himself. This was a sword art that cultivated both Fu Hongyan and her sword intent Yuan Shin together. No wonder Fu Hongyan could use the thunder-controlling true spell to cleanse the earth and the ghost-slaying godly sword intent to kill all the powerhouses who were fearless against the heavenly thunder. The Turkic Khan was not even able to hold on for a second, and his head was cut off by the Hongyan swordsmanship covered with lightning. This time, Hazem really let out a heart-wrenching scream. He shouted crazily, "Fu Hongyan Shenwu, I'm not done with you." Chapter 381. The edge of the sword transcended time and space. In Hazem's eyes, it was a sword made up of lightning jinchi and beauty jinchi, borrowing each other's strength to increase its speed to a terrifying degree. But he couldn't see it, because Fu Hongyan's figure in the sword intent of beauty occupied all his attention. It was a beauty that was absolutely different from the real Fu Hongyan. At this moment, Hazem finally understood why Fu Hongyan's mind was unstable. Splitting herself into two to create a beautiful lover in the sword art, it was already a miracle that Fu Hongyan hadn't gone crazy after such a crazy move. Beauty in the sword smiled in front of him, and it was as if Hazem had been bewitched. His soul and consciousness were slashed apart by the beauty in the sword intent, and his body in the real world was unable to defend against that extremely sharp and swift sword. The sword light flashed under his chin, and Hazem's head fell from his body. Immediately after, his body was turned into nothingness by the powerful lightning true qi. Fu Hongyan withdrew her sword, and with a leap, she returned to the mast of the big ship. She leaned on the mast, hugging her sword, and calmly watched the Turkic camp slowly disintegrate under the remaining lightning power. This time, the so-called severe punishment, the overall situation, and the importance of the alliance had become a complete joke. Everyone, including the Song clan, the Li clan, and the other forces at the port, didn't dare to look at her with the slightest bit of disrespect. There was only a deep sense of fear and reverence in their eyes. So the opinions of the weak don't mean anything. They just need to look at me with reverence in their eyes. Fu Hongyan sighed to Lu Li and said, "In the past, I didn't understand this principle, and I cared too much about meaningless comments. I carefully protected and flattered others, but now I finally understand all of this doesn't matter. As long as you are strong enough, so strong that the weak are like ants under your feet, whatever they want to do, it's useless. It's like a king ruling his harem. What do those beauties think? Do they love me? What does it have to do with me? As long as I have the power to surpass them, I only need to do as I please. They will come on their own, try to figure out my intentions, carefully fawn over me, fall in love with me. Just look at that Song Lu. If I wasn't strong enough, even if I had done them a great favor, they wouldn't have risked offending the Turkic Khagan to protect me. They would have only weighed the pros and cons, weighing my worth on the scales and then giving me some insignificant gift. And I must shed tears of gratitude, or else I would be a heartless ingrate." Hearing Fu Hongyan's words, Song Lu was so embarrassed that his face turned pale. He felt as if countless worms were biting his heart. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, he wished he could die immediately. Song Sherdao looked at Fu Hongyan, who was standing high above like a queen, with a complicated feeling in his heart. But now? I trampled on his dignity, insulted him, and despised most of the ants here. How dare they throw their faces at me? Fu Hongyan pointed at Li Yuanji mercilessly. He pointed at Song Ji. He pointed at Song Lu. He pointed at the others who were looking at him humbly and laughed wildly. "With all due respect, all of you are ants. What you think is insignificant to me, and what I do, you don't need to understand. You just need to be in awe. So, Lu Li." Fu Hongyan came to Lu Li and whispered to him, "I want to be the emperor of all existence. I want to pursue the strongest power, and make everyone else look like ants before me. In this world, I only care about myself, so I entrust all my love, affection, and care to my sword. You all say that I am narcissistic, but you don't know that only extreme narcissism will not care about anything else." Fu Hongyan laughed wildly. "I, Fu Hongyan, want everyone in this world, and even countless worlds, to look up at me. This is my original intention, and also my great wish, to make everyone in the world feel like ants, and be at my mercy. Now." Fu Hongyan licked her lips and smiled. She whispered softly in Lu Li's ear, "In your body. I feel what I desire, a powerful power that shares my original intention." Lu Li looked at the pure and possessive look in Fu Hongyan's eyes, which were exactly the same as the Qilin demon's eyes. "You warned me not to get close, just like how you warned a cat not to get close to a salted fish, and an emperor not to get close to his throne." Fu Hongyan's face showed a deeply seductive expression. "It's useless. The thing in your body wants to devour and possess everything. This is very compatible with my original intention of dominating everything, looking down on everything, and making everyone in the world become ants. Although there are differences." Fu Hongyan lightly touched Lu Li's chest. "But it doesn't matter. I originally wanted to be the master of everything, the only emperor, but to obtain that kind of power, I have to pay a price. I will become the only owner of your consciousness, thoughts, and even existence, and turn you ants into puppets. I will become the god of everything." Lu Li was completely confused by this turn of events. The little friend who was working together with him just a moment ago had suddenly become the villain who was peeking at the sealed power of the Qilin demon in his body. But he didn't have time to be confused. Fu Hongyan's sharp nails had already scratched his chest. Lu Li had no doubt that the next moment, Fu Hongyan would stab her hand into his chest, cut him open, and cut him into pieces. After finding the original body of the Qilin demon, she would happily merge with the Qilin demon, and then walk towards the peak of the demon path, pursuing infinite power and possessing everything. "The thing in my body is very fierce," Lu Li said carefully. "I think with your current strength, if you try to possess this power, most of yourself will be devoured. At that time, it won't be you who will possess it, but it will devour you." "You're right," Fu Hongyan muttered. "It's very hot. I can feel that the consciousness that is the same as mine. Although it likes me and wants to merge with me, because of our nature, when we merge we will definitely devour and possess each other." "So hot." Fu Hongyan looked up and said, "I need a safe and harmless package like you to carry it for me. But now I need to taste it," Fu Hongyan said with a smile, but Lu Li only felt a chill in his heart. He never knew that Fu Hongyan, who had always been a little narcissistic, had completely gone crazy and her strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Under the resonance of the Qilин's demonic consciousness in his body, he could feel that Fu Hongyan's consciousness was becoming stronger by leaps and bounds. The two of them were resonating with each other and growing stronger together. When Fu Hongyan attacked just now, she had clearly just crossed the threshold of the 9-star divine gate. But now, her aura had completely stabilized at the 9-star divine gate. If she continued to grow at this rate, there was no doubt that she would touch the 10-star divine gate in a very short time and break through the divine gate. Chapter 382. Little by little, the sharp nails pierced into Lu Li's body. However, under the control of Fu Hongyan, who was at the level of the Gate of Divinity and Gate of Divinity, martial arts, and dual cultivation, Lu Li was almost defenseless. A cross-shaped wound appeared on her chest, from which strange blood of 5 different colors, silver, red, golden, azure, and pure black, oozed out. Lu Li felt the Qilin demon in her body grow excited, its strength instantly increasing by several dozen times. If not for the Turkic Kagan's death replenishing the energy of the Heshabi's dragon vein, Lu Li had no doubt that she would have been swallowed whole by the Qilin demon in its current state. The blood, imbued with immense strength and a demonic heart, flowed like mercury through Lu Li's chest. Fu Hongyan wrapped it in her energy and held it in her hand. Lu Li's wound had already begun to heal, and the 5-colored blood in Fu Hongyan's hand was only a shallow puddle. As if stimulated by something, the 5-colored blood suddenly began to fuse together. Threads of scarlet, so bright that they were dazzling to the eye, slowly began to condense. As Lu Li watched in horror, the 5-colored blood turned scarlet and continued to rise until it was on the verge of flowing out of Fu Hongyan's hand. But Fu Hongyan raised her head and gulped it down. The fiery red blood flowed into Fu Hongyan's body like an inexhaustible spring. A terrifying aura like that of a primordial beast began to form in her body. Even Lu Li, who was closest to her, could sense Fu Hongyan's overflowing energy and will, exerting a knife-like pressure on him. Under Lu Li's incredulous gaze, Fu Hongyan's energy broke through 9 stars and ascended to a world that he could not understand. But he could see that the peerless beauty of the Hongyan sword intent had transformed into a Qilin demon. "Stop!" Lu Li heard a roar coming from behind Fu Hongyan. All the qi in the air seemed to be cut off. 2 old hands slapped at Fu Hongyan's hands from an unimaginable angle, which were swallowing the blood. It was not until then that Lu Li realized that the time around her had been frozen. Song Lu, Song Ji, Song Sherdao, Li Yuanji, and the sailors and shipwrights were frozen. Lu Li wondered if it was Qilin or Fu Hongyan who had frozen the time here. No wonder Lu Li could not sense the existence of the others. Ning Daoqi, who came to his rescue, was easily suppressed by Fu Hongyan as if he were a doll. However, Fu Hongyan also made a slight mistake in controlling Lu Li. Lu Li tried her best to break free from Fu Hongyan's control. Although Fu Hongyan had wounded Ning Daoqi with ease, 3 drops of blood fell out of her hands. One fell into the middle of the river, the other fell on Song Sherdao, and the last one was caught by Fu Hongyan and turned into a brilliant ruby. At this moment, Lu Li had already dragged Ning Daoqi dozens of steps away from the ship. Seeing that Fu Hongyan was about to catch up with them, Ning Daoqi, who was carried on Lu Li's back, shouted, "Everyone, help me for a moment." The 1 second that hundreds of people around them lost was added to Lu Li's body. The magical power from time had triggered another powerful potential in Lu Li's body. In an instant, he saw countless timelines that would happen dozens of seconds later. There were scenes where Ning Daoqi was killed by Fu Hongyan, where he was captured, and where Fu Hongyan turned into the Kirin demon and killed everything. Among the countless possibilities, Lu Li found the one that they had escaped successfully and confirmed it. Then, the Qilin's blood and the third eye in Lu Li's body formed a special power model. A temporary energy organ with the function of teleportation was formed after dozens of seconds. Then, it wrapped Lu Li and Ning Daoqi, broke the space and disappeared. Victorious fighting! Fu Hongyan shouted angrily. Ning Daoqi activated the power of victorious fighting martial spirit, and escaped with my Lu Li. She grabbed her hair and said angrily, "Lu Li, you belong to me. One day, I will eat you and take back the power that belongs to me." Time began to pass again. Song Lu and others looked at Fu Hongyan, whose red clothes were fluttering even though there was no wind and whose pupils were like rubies. In their eyes, she appeared where Lu Li and Ning Daoqi were in an instant, while Lu Li and Ning Daoqi disappeared. They wanted to ask, but it was difficult for them to speak because of Fu Hongyan's power. Song Sherdao knelt on the ground in pain. His body was burning as if he had fallen into a fire. His face was hideous and painful. He screamed and rolled crazily on the ship. However, the people around him were paralyzed on the ground because of Fu Hongyan's power. Fu Hongyan stood at the prow of the ship and looked at the direction where Lu Li disappeared, revealing a cold smile. She indifferently looked at Song Sherdao, who was in pain on the ship. Meanwhile, the Yangtze River was tumbling. A carp splashed by the Qilin's blood turned into a 3-meter-long monster with a dragon's head and a carp's body, devouring aquatic creatures in the river. Fu Hongyan glanced at Li Yuanji, who was paralyzed on the ground. Suddenly, she waved her sleeve and threw him into the Yangtze River. Li Yuanji had just escaped from Fu Hongyan's terrifying power. He was so excited that he called for help to the troops of the Li clan by the riverside. However, he had just shouted twice when a hideous shadow appeared above his head. Hearing the frightened cries of the people of the Li clan on the riverside, Li Yuanji slowly looked up and saw a pair of cold golden eyes. Li Yuanji's whole body stiffened. Then, amidst the screams of the people of the Li clan, Li Yuanji's head sank into the darkness and his body was dragged into the river. Seeing that Fu Hongyan fed Li Yuanji to the dragon carp, Song Lu and Song Ji looked at her as if they were afraid of a demon. Fu Hongyan waved her sleeves and the ship, which weighed tens of thousands of stones, suddenly turned around. The bow of the ship, supported by the river, rushed to the port. Fu Hongyan's red dress fluttered, and she rushed to the port with her head held high like an empress. Under the frightened eyes of countless water dragon gang members, the Li clan and other people in Jianghu, she walked down the ship step by step as if she was walking on the void. "Come out," Fu Hongyan said coldly. "I know you are not dead." Hazem hesitated for a moment and came out of the darkness. "The Turkic Khan is dead, and you control the king of Korea. Very fast." Fu Hongyan sneered, "And you, Stephen? Did you enjoy it? I helped you get rid of the forces of the Turks, and at the same time, I helped you suppress those natives in the plot. I took the initiative in this Tsutong meeting for you. Was it all in your plan? Di Guangzong? That guy Shen Wu was just like that. In order to show that he is one level higher than us, he sent you to receive us. Just now you also stopped Hazem. In order to let me kill the Turks?" Fu Hongyan laughed. "You see, all your plans have been realized by K2. Why are you still unhappy? Smile." Chapter 383. Why hasn't Xin Wu come yet? Fu Hongyan sneered. Does he expect us to wait for him? Di Guangzong's eyes flashed a trace of annoyance, and he said coldly, Shen Wu has calculated that after 8 hours, the moon will rise, the river will fall to the lowest position, and the pile will be completely out of the water, as big as a house. At that time, our 4 teams and the 4 forces will gather by the river, and the Water Dragon Gang will arrange a pontoon to send us to the pile. At that time, he will naturally come. Who has the time to wait for him? 8 hours. My cooked duck has already flown far away. Set the time of the Chu Tang meeting to half an hour later. Those who are late don't need to participate. After saying this, Fu Hongyan walked to the river without looking back, without waiting for their response. Fu Hongyan. Di Guangzong was very angry with her arrogant behavior, and he held back his anger. At this time, the part of the pile that is out of the water is only the size of a cow and a horse, it can't even fit the 4 of us. Fu Hongyan didn't look back. She looked down at the river to the east. In the turbulent water, an inconspicuous line of water was getting bigger and bigger, and finally the waves on the shore rose by 30%. A low roar like that of a cow or a python came from the river, and the waves on the river became more rapid. In the splashing, the head of a giant beast like a unicorn or a dragon emerged from the middle of the river, bowing to Fu Hongyan and roaring. Di Guangzong, Hazem, and the others recognized the strange beast as the dragon carp that had just appeared. However, in just a short while, the appearance of this fierce beast had changed a lot, and the pressure on its body had become fiercer and more terrifying. Its head had some of the characteristics of a qilin, but it still retained some traces of an aquatic species. It looked like a mutated dragon. The back half of its body was submerged in the water, but only by the shadow flashing in the water from time to time, and the scales and claws occasionally exposed from the water. It could be seen that its body was not like a dragon or a snake, but more like a relatively short and thick fish. Its cat-like golden vertical pupils stared coldly at everyone on the shore, and only when it saw Fu Hongyan would it show a friendly expression. The strange beast moved its huge body, and the ordinary people on the shore were so frightened that they retreated away from the river. It floated on the river in front of Fu Hongyan, half of its body sticking out of the water. Its head, which was the size of a truck, moved closer to Fu Hongyan, and let out excited snorts. Fu Hongyan reached out her hand and gently scratched its shiny scales. Her nails were infused with the true qi of the blood Kirin, and she scratched the new scales. The strong life force and the evil nature of the beast made the giant beast squint its eyes. Di Guangzong's face turned solemn. He felt threatened by the giant beast. It meant that this exotic beast, which had been born less than an hour ago, could threaten the life of an 8-star top master like him. And this was only a drop of Lu Li's blood, which had been born in such a short time. How powerful was Fu Hongyan, who had obtained most of Lu Li's blood? How did Fu Hongyan know that Lu Li's blood could make her so powerful? Stephen was trembling in fear at the side. Di Guangzong asked in a low voice, Stephen, you're the leader of a team. Do you have to be so scared? She's discovered me. Stephen was drenched in sweat from fear. He said with a trembling voice, I don't know what happened, but my bloodline just had an extreme desire for that beast. It was about to make a move, but it was immediately targeted by another terrifying thing. I'm like a mouse exposed to the eyes of a venomous snake. I can't resist the fear that comes from my genetic instinct. Di Guangzong's eyes flashed with a hint of doubt after listening to Stephen's intermittent reply. He silently released his true qi, and the strands of heterogeneous true qi hid in the body of the Li clan soldier beside him. The Li clan general, who was intimidated by the innate pressure of a high-level creature, suddenly felt his body warm up, and the true qi all over his body became lively. He pulled out his combat knife with all his might and shouted at the soldier beside him. His Highness has been killed. We're all sentenced to death. Waiting for death is death, and avenging His Highness is also death. Do you want to implicate your wives and children? Follow me and kill the beast that harmed His Highness. Kill. The eyes of the Li clan soldiers were bloodshot, and they became strangely excited. A group of elite knights formed a battle formation and charged toward the beast. The beast that was happily being tickled by Fu Hongyan suddenly opened its eyes and stood up with its body tensed. Its golden pupils stared at the tiny human charging toward it and revealed its fangs in a show of force. It looked as though it was smiling sinisterly. Then, with the speed of lightning, the mutated beast rushed out of the water along with the torrent of the Yangtze River. The mighty turbid current swept everything in its path as the mutated beast attacked. The army of 100 or so people were swept into the water like chickens. The giant beast rolled about in the water and killed all the enemies within 2 breaths. Seeing the beast's excited expression, Fu Hongyan smiled and waved her right hand at it. The beast let out a low groan and retreated from the shore with the torrent. Immediately afterward, the surface of the Tsutong River dropped rapidly as though a large amount of water had been sucked out, revealing the pile of rocks at the center of the river. The beast entrenched near the pile of rocks made the water flow even more chaotic. Fu Hongyan chuckled softly. The beast lowered its head at her feet and brought her to the center of the river. Facing the countless shivering people on the shore, her voice rang clearly in everyone's ears. This meeting doesn't need so many useless people. The weak don't have the right to decide their own fate. Only those who can reach the rocks can compete with me. Her vivid eyes swept across the faces of Di Guangzong, Stephen, and the others. Forces that can't even reach the rocks have no value in existence. The Song clan, the Li clan, Korea, the Merciful Boathouse, and that Garuda controlled by the Buddhist sect. I've already locked onto the auras of all the forces and individuals involved in this matter, and I've already locked onto the auras of 306,749 people near the Tsutong River. Those who haven't reached the rocks must either obey the Alliance Master's orders or I'll kill them myself. I'll be waiting for you on top of the rock. Fu Hongyan's red dress turned and she stepped on top of the rock. You only have 1 hour. After 1 hour, the Tsutong River will be flooded, and I'll start killing people. This will add a touch of color to the Tsutong River meeting. Fu Hongyan stood on the rocks with her hands behind her back, looking at the panic on the shore indifferently. Her eyes were always locked on Di Guangzong and the others, as if inviting them with her eyes. Di Guangzong pondered for a moment, hesitating and hesitating. Finally, he left, not daring to set foot on the rocks. Fu Hongyan smiled and said in a voice that only she could hear, I've given you a chance, but you didn't take it. The so-called meeting of the Tsutong River and the alliance of the 4 teams is just a joke to face the primordial demon. It's better to let me eat you to nourish my body. Chapter 384. Feeling the desire that sprouted from the depths of her body, the thirst for blood, life, and genetic materials, Fu Hongyan stared at the other side of the reef in a daze. In the eyes of the ants on both sides, she was looking at the surface of the river, but only Fu Hongyan could see a figure standing there, giving her a terrifying pressure. Chen Ong stood opposite Fu Hongyan, smiling at her. I've seen you before. Fu Hongyan frowned. I took in a few surviving members of the Universe team. That day, when they gathered together, a blade will slashed out from the void, wanting to kill them all. I clashed with that saber intent and saw you. Fu Hongyan sighed. You are also in Demon Qilin's memories. Unfortunately, I only got a part of it, and the inherited memories are too incomplete. But judging from the power in my body's fear of you, you should be the primordial demon that created it, the terrifying existence that it fears and desires to devour. Yes. Chen Ong admitted readily. He smiled. I sensed that there was something wrong with my test subject, so I used the trace I left in your consciousness last time to project myself to see you. Interesting test subject. Using the impression that the blade left in me last time to project an illusion that is no different from the real person in my consciousness. That idiot Shen Wu, The information he gave us was ridiculously poor. You are clearly far more powerful than a 10-star demon, but he told us that Your Highness Sky Demon is a 10-star demon. Since Your Highness Sky Demon can chat with me in my consciousness, it should be easy for you to stab me again, Fu Hongyan said calmly. My life is just something in the palm of Your Highness Sky Demon, and those guys from Shenwu are just clowns in Your Highness Sky Demon's eyes. At this time, Fu Hongyan laughed and said, Then what does Your Highness Heavenly Demon want from us clowns? Of course it's the existence behind you. I remember you call it God's space, Chen Ong answered honestly. God's space? Ha 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 ha. Fu Hongyan suddenly smiled very brightly. She squinted her eyes and said, I knew that Your Highness Demonic Highness would be interested in it. So now that the Lord God did not kill me in the first place, is it also because of Your Highness? Chen Ong smiled faintly. Apart from the secrets of God's space, what else do you have that is worth my attention? Fu Hongyan's pupils shrank when she saw that Chen Ong did not deny that he had the ability to shield himself from the senses of the Overgod. She did not show it on the surface, but her heart was trembling with excitement. There were countless experts in the multiverse controlled by the Overgod space. 10-star godfiends were everywhere, and even 11-star Tao-breaking experts were not lacking. But, as far as Fu Hongyan knew, the only expert who could interfere with the authority of the Overgod's space was Chen Ong. Different from Lu Li's vigilance and collapse after learning the truth, Fu Hongyan's endless desire for power made it difficult for her to suppress the inner turmoil in Chen Ong. Then what can I do for His Highness the Heavenly Demon? Frankly speaking, what kind of value do I have? Fu Hongyan's eyes were clear. She was not controlled by the obsession of pursuing power. In other words, her personality was built around this obsession. She had already turned this obsession into her own nature and heart. Because of some mechanism, the Lord God is guarding against people like me entering its core structure. I am now trying to bypass its defense mechanism, but the process is not going well. If you view God as an egg, I'm now outside the eggshell, and the so-called samsara team is just a secondary mechanism outside the core of the eggshell. If you want to capture its core, the best way is of course you, the most active samsara travelers in the system. Reincarnators are like bacteria in the human body. They are parasitic in the Lord God's space, but they are not completely controlled by it. So naturally, it is the best way to erode and devour it. At first, I wanted to enter the mechanism of the reincarnators myself to find the secret of the core of the Lord God's space. But soon I found that it was wary of an existence like me. I could only give up most of my strength and wisdom, pretend to be a normal reincarnator and sneak in. But this Lord God. Chen Ong showed a strange expression. Fu Hongyan could not understand such an expression appearing on him. He shook his head and said, This Lord God is too careless. It actually used the method of cloning and replacing to arrange for you reincarnators to carry out tasks. That is to say, you are not the ones in your memory. You are replicas remade by the Lord God with His own materials and transplanted memories and information. This has been repeated countless times. I have never seen such a shameless Lord God. Fu Hongyan laughed and said, So Your Highness Celestial Demon's method of sneaking in personally encountered difficulties. Yes, I have many ways to hide my existence and pretend to be an ordinary person. But why do I have to suffer such humiliation? Chen Ong asked as he looked at Fu Hongyan. Fu Hongyan nodded and said, So Your Highness needs us. So I need you. The virus will be attached to you and sneak into the space with you. Because your value is too low now, in order to prevent the Lord God from replacing you with replicas, I created the Qilin Demon and the Tree of God to help you enter the 10 stars and transform your soul into something more valuable to the Lord God. It is also an existence that cannot be replicated. This bypasses its first layer of firewall. Of course, there are more defense programs behind it, but as long as it is not as shameless as the first defense, I can crack it. The The soul information of a 10-star divine demon is special. For the Lord God, it cannot completely crack it, nor can it be replicated. Such reincarnators have a little bit of value. Whether it is for me or for the Lord God, my appearance should be beyond the expectations of Your Highness Celestial Demon? If I am not wrong, the Chilan demon should be prepared for Luli. My appearance is just an accident, but when I show the qualified value of the Lord God's virus, I stand out from the cannon fodder of Your Highness Celestial Demon and become a glorious pawn. Fu Hongyan's expression was very calm, not at all like Luli, who had a breakdown after hearing the news for the first time. She was calm about the fact that she was a clone, and it could even be said that she had adapted well. Even Chen Ong was very satisfied with her performance. The selfish personality and the core of the will are really perfect in shaping the self. Is it because you are extremely narcissistic and selfish that you understand your own self better? This kind of state of only me not only makes your will strong and unmoved by external things, but it also makes you greedy enough, possessing a strong desire for progress and madness. You are right. The original candidate was indeed Luli, but since you are more suitable, it is okay to give you a chance. Remember, in this world, there are only 3 chances to become my pawns and get rid of the cannon fodder: God, Demon, Buddha. Among them, only the Chilan demon fits your heart and can retain most of your consciousness and personality. At the same time, you have to bring enough pressure to Luli. I also hope that the other 2 seeds can successfully germinate. Chapter 385. Do you have an appetite for Stephen? Chen Ong and Fu Hongyan stood side by side. Of course, in other people's eyes, they could only see Fu Hongyan standing alone on the pile of rock. You have a good eye. He is a true ancestor, representing the supreme path of the Blood Clan. He is qualified to be the prey of the Blood Chilan. The core of the Blood Chilan battle body comes from both the Blood Clan and the Chilan. That guide is a great tonic. Chen Ong stared at Stephen with interest, which made Stephen, who was secretly watching from the shore, feel a little nervous. Fu Hongyan said with a strange expression, "Your Highness Primeval Heavenly Demon, are you sure you want to help me evolve into a complete Chilan demon?" "Of course." Chen Ong smiled and said, "Do you think I would lie to you? This strand of my consciousness shall be your golden thigh for the time being. With the help of an old grandpa like me who has destroyed the multiverse multiple times and destroyed countless worlds in innumerable timelines, you would definitely be able to tread the path of the demoness with a steady foothold." "Then, Your Highness Heavenly Demon." Fu Hongyan smiled reluctantly, "What can you do for me? The path of pursuing power has to be walked by oneself. Since I have already arranged a path like the Chilan demon, you just have to follow it. As for power, I can't give you too many pointers, unless you want to practice and cultivate yourself into a primeval heavenly demon. When other people become immortals or devils, at most, their consciousness will degenerate. If you become a primordial devil, my main body will definitely erase all your existence, and you will completely become him. So, in order to prevent a primeval heavenly demon from walking out from the depths of your consciousness, you better not visualize and imitate me." Fu Hongyan heard this and raised her eyebrows, "Like Yang Guang? Great celestial demon Yang Guang, I was resurrected from his sea of consciousness." Chen Ong cackled. "A mere street punk dares to try and peek at my power." Fu Hongyan was speechless and had to interrupt him. "Then what can I rely on, Your Highness? I'll help you concoct a recipe, choose the right ingredients, and use the right method to eat them. Your greatest resource is these cannon fodder. They more or less have all kinds of special bloodlines, and Demon Chilan is one of the most advanced creations of biochemical science. It has a profound concept, and perhaps its current level of power isn't high enough, but the path it follows is one of the most advanced techniques of the demonic path, and its future is limitless." Chen Ong laughed and said, "If you want to pursue this path, The best way is not to cultivate in seclusion, not to comprehend and research, but to devour and possess everything in the world. Therefore, the recipe is very important to you. My help will lead you to the core of your path. Cannibalism cultivation. Fu Hongyan said with mixed feelings, I can't believe such a good thing. Look at this true ancestor. It is full of blood and energy, and both its soul and body are very plump. It can be said that its meat is at its best. If I were to do research, I would certainly dissect it bit by bit, delve into the most subtle and basic parts, and build and perfect its life information system from scratch. I would summarize it from genes, information, energy, soul, and even metaphysics and cosmology, and integrate it into my enormous knowledge system. But you don't need it at all. You just need to devour it in the most efficient way. Although the Qilin blood in your body is shallow, and the resources you plundered from Luli are still too little, the hereditary information of the Qilin demon is complete. For such an existence, even the most insignificant bit has the ability to carry all of its information, so it is immortal and indestructible. Now, all you need to do is plunder the information of other bloodlines to supplement your own foundation. In this regard, I have specially selected a dozen targets from those samsara travelers who have very valuable bloodlines. Eat them, and you will be invincible in the world. At least in this world, except for me. You only need to be wary of the divine tree that has united the will of countless experts and come with the momentum of the dragon bloodline. The power of the victorious fighting martial spirit, which represents Buddha, has been shared by Luli and the Qilin demon. It won't cause you any trouble. As time went by, no one dared to set foot on the jadeite pile. Even the other 3 teams were watching quietly on the riverbank. Fu Hongyan, who was a little impatient before, became much gentler after knowing their value. She looked at those people on the riverbank not so coldly anymore. On the contrary, there was a trace of joy in her eyes like an old farmer looking at a pig during the new year. Looking at the gradually setting sun, Fu Hongyan calculated the time in her heart. She said to herself, 9 more minutes to make a move on them. I really want to devour them, plunder their power, and make myself stronger. On the other side, Luli and Ning Daoqi suddenly appeared from the void and fell into the dust under their feet. Ning Daoqi spat out blood crazily, as if he didn't care about money, while Luli was very confused and didn't know what to do. Ning Daoqi suppressed his own injury and said, The most important thing now is to not let you fall into the hands of that woman. I am a useless person now. Even if I am in my heyday, I can't even take 3 moves from her. Brother, the thing in your body is too terrible. The primeval devil has caused chaos in the world. How innocent are the people in the world. Ning Daoqi's breath was weak, but after a while, he used some unknown method to suddenly become excited. His face was abnormally bright red. He grabbed Lu Li's hand and said sincerely, Don't worry about me. Ning Daoqi is useless. He can't protect all living beings under such a demonic might. But I will do everything I can for all living beings in the world. My young friend Lu, you are carrying a heavy burden in this calamity. The lives of millions of people are sometimes in your hands. I only beg you, when you make that kind of decision, think about them, think about the people in the world. Ning Daoqi panted for a while, and the blood Qilin genuine qi that Fu Hongyan sent into his body suddenly reacted. In an instant, his face turned black, but he still struggled to put the jade pendant into Lu Li's hand, and said in a weak voice, Go to Mount Dita and give my token to House Master Fan Qinghui. Tell her about the demon Qilin, and ask her to unite the righteous. At the end of his words, Ning Daoqi's face showed a trace of death. The blood Qilin genuine qi had almost cut off all his life force. Lu Li was very anxious. He put his palm on Ning Daoqi's wound and wanted to absorb the blood Qilin genuine qi to heal him. Ning Daoqi used the last bit of his strength to say to him, You can't. My friend Lu, The Qilin devil in your body is growing faster than we expected. If you stimulate it now, I'm afraid you can't last until it is time to kill the devil. I have already used the secret method of Taoism to stimulate my life force. I will die in 3 breaths. Even divine fairy Dara can't save me. Don't take this risk. Lu Li's eyes were filled with tears, and she nodded emotionally. As the two of them looked at each other, 3 breaths passed quietly. Lu Li was so sad that she wanted to close Ning Daoqi's eyes. She cried bitterly, "Brother Ning." Ning Daoqi panted and said, "I was wrong. I still have a little bit of life force. I'm afraid I can hold on for 3 quarters. Another 3 quarters passed. Lu Li looked at Ning Daoqi with his eyes wide open. Ning Daoqi touched his chest. Although he was still dying, he could turn around and get up. Wait. Maybe there is something wrong with me, but my heart meridians, and blood vessels are all shattered. There is no way to save me. This is just the last radiance of the setting sun. Maybe the woman's genuine qi is special." Ning Daoqi said blankly. Another 45 minutes passed. Lu Li carried Ning Daoqi down the mountain. As she walked, she said, "Dao brother, you've kept your breath for a long time." He said with a dark face, "But why do I suddenly feel that my 1 minute is only 59 seconds?